This is for you new people. I only have one rule. Everyone fights, no one quits. You don't do your job, I'll shoot you. You get me.
We get you, sir!
Welcome to the Roughnecks.
Ratcats Roughnecks!
We got a lot to do. Man, I don't like my thumbnail. I hate this thumbnail. I should never have gone with this thumbnail. I know it'll aggravate. I'm supposed to do nice things. I gotta put nice stuff on my thumbnails now. Because the algorithm has changed. No more negativity. No more swearing words. We've gotta generate good comments. We're doing long form. Long form's dead. So is feminism. Boy, do we have a lot to cover. A lot of people. Oh, yeah. This is the Rational Male live from Las Vegas, Nevada. But a lot of people seem to think I'm a very negative person, so I'm going to try to be cheery. A lot of shit's been going down as far as feminism and the empowerment of women these days. So I thought that would make a really good topic for today's show. But before we do, let's get to Zach. Now, you said Zach's a YouTuber, right?
He's like a YouTube content creator.
Okay.
What's up? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. You're from Texas, the South. Are you racist?
Yeah. No.
You like country music?
Yeah. You like country music?
I want you to spit in my mouth and call me Keith Urban.
Not my thing.
Women
Yeah.
or mothers?
Women.
Oh
And
my gosh, you
mothers.
hate
No.
Are you against the gays? Do you hate June?
No.
You do know you have to try to make her fall in love with you, right?
Oh,
What's going on?
how am I doing? What do you think about the Second Amendment?
I'm from Texas.
Oh, there she is. I
Yeah.
was worried it went vegan for a second. and
No,
got-
I like meat.
Yeah, you do. How do you order? I sweat a lot in the bedroom. How do you feel about that? On weekends, I do hate crimes. I don't do them during the week.
What type?
It just depends on who's around.
What's today? I think it's Tuesday.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm a missionary guy.
You're Mormon. I'm waiting till my second marriage,
Settle
do the
down.
thing. Well, not have sex. I really want to get into an abusive relationship. I think it'll make me a better person. I don't know if you're toxic. Love to try it out.
Okay.
Oh, hey, what's up, Shorty?
Oh.
It hurt coming up.
Oh, it was really
I
cute.
went,
Step out of
not
the
who you
box.
are, brother. Fucking.
He said, I literally have a gun. If you don't.
There it is. See, that's what happens if you max out on game. You can cover a lot of things. You can cover bad looks. You can cover lack of money as well. Although he is pretty, he has got status already built in. So, oh my God, how about Erica Kirk?
Got punked, bro, and everybody knows it. He was naive about a few things, but also naive about the woman question. And all these Christian guys are.
Dude, she's a predator.
This is predatory. She did not wait till she was married to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
She's 6 years older than Charlie. She's experienced.
Yeah.
She totally took advantage of this naive guy. Older women are smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
They will lie to you, and you will fall for it. Be the predator, not the prey. Look in the mirror and repeat that to yourself this week. Be the predator, not the prey.
This guy looks like he should have like a handlebar mustache or
Right.
some shit like that. I mean, he's like one of these old school guys, like, let me tell you about the art of manliness, right? And I know he's had his ass kicked and he's part of like Nick Fuentes' crew and everything else. But he occasionally comes up with something pretty good, because a lot of shit that's going down with Erica Kirk, like a lot of these leaked videos, and I know Candace Owens is the one that leaked it, but like it's interesting to me because I'm getting flashbacks of like when my brother-in-law ended up offing himself.
Yep.
And people want to say, oh, well, that's when Rolo had his red pill moment. I'm like, no, you know when I had my red pill moment was how everyone responded after he was gone, like after. And it's very much the same way with Charlie Kirk, how everybody, especially his wife or an now widowed, wife, how she's responding and what she's doing in the wake. Like this is not like mourning. This was an opportunity for her, and she's capitalizing on that opportunity. This is funny as fuck.
Ohio.
遠慮しなくていいんだよ。
これがダメなの？
触り方に何か問題があるのかな。
じゃあ部長だったらどうやるんです？
え？
お願いします。
いや、おはよう。
やあ、おはよう。ちなみにどこが違うの？
人が違います。
I gotta do a hat tip to Jake Rattlesnake here. Gonna have to get a copyright strike for this. I might as well play out. There you go. I'm glad he did this. It's like just in the nick of time because I've got a video we're going to look at today that's going to really kind of bake your noodle. I don't know why I really like this guy. I thought this dude was like AI to begin with. This dude is actually a real dude.
The biggest lie that the world has told you as a man is that you are okay as you are. Fuck you, you are far from okay, and even if you give it all, you're probably never gonna reach even close to being okay. Remember, guys, we are men. We get love on conditions what you fucking provide. Women, children, dogs, they get unconditional love. Our love comes with the condition of what do you bring to the fucking table. So you want to be loved by everybody, make sure to bring every fucking thing to the table.
There you go. This guy he showed him my feed. I started following him and everything like that. At first I thought, man, this is really good AI.
Yeah.
But no, he's actually a real dude. I looked it up. But man.
How about this comment right here?
What was it? What did he say?
El Westana.
Yes, Wes Watson only more literate.
Can't be young forever. Ooh-wee. You had multiple dudes. You had a dude to take you out to eat, a dude that was good at sex, a dude you can call when you wanted company. She laughing because she know it's true.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. So when a man reaches his peak, y'all like to go, oh, he's still immature. No, he's now at his peak. Status, money, resources, and power. He can have forever, but you can't be young forever.
I ain't playing with you no more.
Go to hell. It's revolving. Ask my little brother if he believes both men and women should be drafted in World War III.
Should men and women both be drafted in the war if there's a World War III that happens?
No.
I guess. You think both should be drafted? Drafted means like you have to
I know
go.
what drafted is.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, equality, I guess, so.
So you think they should like just drop off a form at everybody's door and be like, if your kid's over 18, they have to go to war?
They wanted this, though.
Who did?
The women.
No, they didn't.
They wanted equal rights. If somebody can vote, they can vote. If someone goes to war, which is hard, someone goes forward.
Yeah, but men are bigger, so then they're like,
So now you're being sexist.
What? No.
So like in theory you're right, but in theory you could also be wrong. You're a sexist girl.
Okay.
I'm right.
This is what we got coming up, boys.
All right, I have to give you a preview here before you get to the next one. I need to actually share a screen here. Where did it go? This is the cardinal rule of relationships from my 2013 book, actually, but this was the original blog post for it. The cardinal rule of relationships states this: in any relationship, the person with the most power is the one who needs the other the least. Okay, and sounds pretty straightforward, right? And I wrote so this is actually from 2011 when I wrote it on the blog, but it ended up in my first book. And you guys can go ahead and pick it up. It's basically all you got to do is just look up Cardinal Rule of Relationships on The Rational Male. So I wanted you guys to have a look at that really quick because remember, that's August 19th, 2011. This is, January of 2026. And this is the plagiarist, Orion Taraban.
The one with the most power is the person who has more options.
Yes. Just think about it in terms of pure economics. If one of the best positions to be in the professional world is to have a counteroffer, Even if you have no
Psychotic.
intention of
Look at that face. Holy sh! This is Tom Bialew's wife, by the way, who has her own. You want to talk about like women who have like ridden the coattails of, like, I know, Dr. Phil's wife, Robin McGrath.
Mm-hmm.
She has her own show, and she's basically trying to like springboard off of Dr. Phil for forever. And you look at the chicks that have like sort of like tried to become influencers based on the popularity of their popular influencer husbands. She's definitely one of them.
Accepting it, that doesn't necessarily needs to be communicated to the other party. And now you have somebody who is willing to give you a little bit more, a little bit of a higher salary, a little bit more PTO. I mean, it's a powerful negotiating position.
This is like almost verbatim what I was writing about in 2011. Just like literally, I said the same thing. I said, if you are in a position where you have options and like you're going, I even I cast it in the same narrative too. I said, if you're going to give your 2 weeks notice at your work because Joe down the street's going to pay you $10,000 more, you're going to be in a much better position to negotiate for a raise with the guy that you're with right then and there, right? So essentially what it is having that, like, not needing the other person as much as they need you. When you are in a work situation, your employer only employs you because he can make more money off of you by having you there than not having you there.
A person who has no options, it's going to be very hard to fake the confidence and equanimity that comes from, I have no plan B. Like, when people have no plan B, they generally get desperate and they're then willing to do whatever it takes to get this one option.
So that's the thing that you guys wonder why this shit drives me crazy. This is exactly like every now and then, and you know, it's funny. Here's what's going to happen. Tarabound's going to do another video and he's going to like drop like, oh, you know, any rational male would think, you know, he's never going to say my name. He's never going to like, you know, give me the nod or anything like that. This dude ruthlessly lifts my material left and right. So every now and then I got to point that out.
I don't know why conservatives and Republicans hate white liberal women so much. It's because they need us. Patriarchy, white supremacy, Trumpism, the Maha wellness movement, it all goes away if we start saying no more. It's why they hate Renee Good. It's why my comment section is always in shambles. It's why they say that white liberal women are the greatest threat to democracy or their terrible idea of it. It's because when they lose us, they lose power. As soon as white women decide that we are going to stop upholding the very systems that oppress us and other people, they start to go away. The majority of white women voted for Trump in the last election. Keep getting your nails done, keep going to Pilates, keep doing whatever white girl shit it is you want to do, but don't stop resisting and tell your friends because they cannot win without us.
You know what's funny is like the whole resistance thing. Yeah. Do you remember? Okay, so like you remember in 2017, it was right after Trump got into office on his first term, right?
Okay.
That's when you start seeing the quote unquote resistance, like in everything, like in sci-fi, in Star Wars. It's not the rebellion anymore. It's the resistance, right? Yeah. And so you hear that narrative over and over again. So now they're just basically reheating the same shit from like 2017 right now in 2026. And last but not least, your friend of mine
took hold. Divorce rates have skyrocketed. Birth rates have plummeted. I mean, we're watching the disintegration of the family unit in real time. And
thanks, Matt. Nice of you to join us after what, 2012?
People are less happy. They're unhappy. I mean, as much as there's this cliche kind of image of the 1950s housewife who was depressed. All the Hollywood films are always like with this image of the housewife was depressed and she was on whatever drugs secretly. And
no, they're not. Actually, we've had nothing but the strong, independent, the bad bitch who gets things done archetype since, I don't know, the mids. Well, we could start it off with Alien, with Sigourney Weaver as Ripley in Alien. I think that's probably, I would peg right around 1979 is probably when everything started picking up. But that we've had the opposite narrative for a long. Father knows best, and leave it to Beaver. That was long gone.
You know, the husband was off having sex with the secretary.
Been watching Mad Men too long.
And most of that is just Hollywood. It's a Hollywood cartoon, and in reality, it's kind of the opposite. Now is when all that is happening. The women are depressed, anxiety riddled, on antidepressants, men too. So,
no, not men too. Only women. And I'm going to show you that graph one more time if you'd like me to.
Birth rates plummeting, 60 million dead babies, divorce rates skyrocketed, people are unhappy, they're on antidepressants. You don't need to go much farther.
No, you don't.
And you got fucking Tucker Carlson right there, just like, okay. No, you don't. God, I can't even believe, like, when did Matt Walsh go on with Tucker Carlson? I don't even know. Yep. You know what? You are right. Fucking Robotech was awesome. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to have a special guest on today here at probably about another half an hour, 45 minutes. His name is Mark DeFant, and he wrote this really great piece that's called Evolutionary Psychology and the Crisis of Empirical Rigor in Feminist Studies. And essentially, it's I guess it's a draft. I guess he put this out. Oh, he put this out in September 5th, 2025. And accepted 20. Oh, sorry. It was received on the 5th of September. Okay, so it was published on the 28th of September, 2025. So there you go. He passed it on to me. Came on. He emailed me just out of the blue, and I read this and I go, man, I got to get this guy on my show. So I'm gonna have him on, but I kind of wanted to get into, like, dig in a little bit before I had him on, just because I know what he's going to do is he's going to back up a shit ton of stuff I'm about to say. So I wanted to I wanted to do the build up and warm you guys up for this for a minute. By the way, yes, this is, wait, okay. Can you give me the shot? Where is it? Yes. There we go. This is the new merch that's available on Sticker Mule right now. If you are wondering where is this link? The link is in the description. It's in all of my descriptions. It's the Sticker Mule one. It'll say new merch. Just click on there. You'll see it. It'll come up. There's other ones on there too, but this is the most recent one. But this is the Rolo's Roughnecks one, and I did this myself, so you can check this shit out and go grab one. I wore this at on Access Vegas on Wednesday, and like suddenly I've got like 7 new orders, and I didn't even say shit. I didn't even say anything about it, and people were like, "Oh, is that on?" Yep. So yeah, I'm tilling the fields. Yes, that's what I am doing. Yeah, I was gonna say, especially what somebody just in the chat here just a second ago was saying, like, Tom Bialu will have like Orion Taraban on because he's safe. He's in their ecosystem. That's why. But remember, it's not Tom Bialu. It's Tom Bialu's wife who hates the fucking red pill, unless it's somebody she can control, like Orion Taraban. So I was going to say, is like, if you look, Orion looked like, I saw the interview, and he I don't know, he kind of looked like he's a little frazzled or something. Like his eyes were like a little bit more weird than they usually are. But no, he's essentially citing the cardinal rule of relationships, which is straight, like, I mean, almost verbatim out of my book. So, they say, what imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Yeah, it's also the sincerest form of plagiarism too. So I'm just saying. And then for people who are going to say, well, you didn't think of that step first, man. It was Patrice O'Neill. There was Tom Likas, blah, blah, blah. I've already given credit where credit is due. But let's just be honest here. Like, neither one of those guys has 6 books under their belts, okay? And have not been doing it as long as I have. So there is that. And I get it. People are gonna lift my shit. There's nothing I can do about that. I remember when I first got published, and then I started finding out that there was a lot of like pirate editions of my book, like PDFs. Like people would just like grab them, or they put them on, like, or they would read them themselves on YouTube. Okay. And they weren't making. I just let it go because it's like, they weren't making a lot of money off of these things. But it dilutes it. But I don't make any money off of it either. If somebody else is giving my shit away for free. I think it's flattering. It's great that I'm glad people want to do that. I know that there's bootleg translations of my book in Farsi and like Arabic and some other language. I have a guy who wanted to do a translation in Czech, like for the Czech Republic. Okay. I've already given him permission to do that. I have a French translations that are coming up soon. Turkish translations are, because everybody keeps asking me. Yes, Turkish translations are already in the works too. There's already a Polish translation. There's a Spanish translation. There's German translation. There is a Korean translation. I am glad. I hate to say it, but I'm contributing to the sexual divide between men and women in South Korea, probably with my books. But there you have it. Actually, what's funny is the Polish and the Korean version of my books were actually out before Spanish and German. So that ought to tell you something. That's how those were the cultures that really wanted the book. I'm sure there's probably a Swahili version of it as well, because I have a lot of people in Kenya who love my shit, which is great. I'm happy. Thank you for doing it. It's flattering for me. Like, I'm not going to make any money off of it, but I do know that you guys are so into it and are so passionate about it, and I'm happy that you guys, like, when people come up to me, they go, "Hey, we'd like to do a Portuguese, version of your book." Like, be my guest, because I've realized, Spanish, I might make $300 a month off of that, like of the translations, because it's the marketing and it's everything that else goes into it. And like German, okay. Korean, I don't make that. I make more money off of my advances on the Korean books than I do on the actual sales of the book, because you got to remember there's the exchange rate too. So what are you going to do? But I'm happy that they're out there, and I'm more than cool with that. So like, if you have, I don't know, if you speak Mandarin and you want to translate, that's not been done yet. So you hit me up. I'll be happy to let you go and do it. At least let me know. Like the Farsi book and the Arabic book, like people go, "Did you know your book's been translated to Farsi?" I'm like, no. I know I'm not going to make any money off of it, but that's fine. I'm flattered that you wanted to do that. But like, just if you're going to, and you're going to do a bootleg, just like, "Hey, you know what? Sorry, we're going to do this. I know. Sorry, you're not going to make any money. All right. Well, just let me know and I'll be happy to promote it for you too." So there you go. Romanian. There is a Romanian version that's supposed to be coming out too. I've got another guy that's actually hit me up about Romania. So I didn't even know Romanian was a language. Yeah. There's an actual definitive language for them. Well, like when I worked in wine and spirits, I used to make trips from Holland down to Belgium and then into France, right? And the Belgium people don't speak Belgiumese. They speak Flemish. I'm like, does anybody want to do a Flemish version of the Rational Male? Because but like each one of those languages is like a distinct language. Although I shouldn't say that nobody's done a Dutch version yet, but Dutch is like cognitively, it's kind of like German. So yeah, Tate reads the Romanian version. Tate reads the English version. I know. Ask me how I know. Yeah. So I'm going to dig in. Oh, so you can get this on Sticker Mule. The link is in the description there. And before I get started, I have to do this. And whoever will not receive your teachings, you teachings of Rollo, nor will he hear your words, shake off the dust of your feet, going forth out of the house or that city. Okay, here you go. You did call me Red Pill Jesus once. And a small thank you for all the work you've done. Wish I had found it before I got married back in 2013. Would have saved me this headache. Don't be me, Red Pill aware. Build yourself first. Thank you. And I like your car. What is that? It looks like a Charger. In this icon right there.
That's I don't know if that's a Durango.
The Durango?
That's a Durango.
Oh, it's Mopar. You're excused. It's still a Mopar. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I was gonna say, if you want to pick up on, I got some other designs that I got coming in my brain. I got another Access Vegas shirt that I've already got. I kind of have to run it by Mike before I throw it out there. It's the Hairless Murder Apes t-shirt, because we always say that. I said I was going to do a t-shirt of Hairless Murder Apes for Access Vegas, so that's coming up as well. And then I've got a Reignite shirt that's coming out as well. So you guys, that's some things to look forward to. This is what I do when I'm like waiting for my next surgery and I can't leave the house. I'm just like, what can I do now? It's like idle hands. So anyways, I wanted to talk about this this video that was on Steve Bartlett, and I don't know the chick's name. I'm going to show you the video first, and then I'm going to show you the Twitter exchange or the Twitter replies that came after this. And I cannot believe, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that. I can believe, but it's just amazing to me the amount of visceral misandry. And I hardly ever use that term. I don't use misogyny and I don't use misandry very often. I don't use evil, the word evil, very often, because I think people, when you say that, people go, oh yeah, Rollo believes in demons like me. Like, only in Warhammer 40,000 are there actual demons. But I don't use, like, certain terms I tend not to use. I don't like the term toxic masculinity for obvious reasons. I'll talk about it because I think it's bald bullshit, and I think it's just it's a psyop. It's a means of social control and social engineering. Of course, it's just finding a way to qualify and add value judgments to male behavior at the expense of men, obviously. So, I mean, you've heard me say this a million times. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's only masculinity and the parts that align with a female primary social order, and the parts that are conflict with that. Okay. So, with that said, I'm going to show you. This is on Steve Bartlett's show, and it's just a quick clip. Is this the one? Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
I was looking at some stats earlier on that said there's been increased sexual inactivity amongst young men, which is an interesting stat. It's risen to almost 31% of men between the ages of 18 and 24 reporting no sexual activity in the past year.
Okay, halt right there. What do you think the feminist response to that stat was? I'll give you 1 second to tell me what do you think it is? There you go. I'll give you 10 seconds to tell me in the chat. What do you think that feminist women said the moment they didn't watch anything else except for that first 30 seconds of the video right there? What do you think they came up with? These men think that they're owed sex. That's exactly what they were saying. I can't believe it. How dare you? You've stolen my dreams.
So that's almost doubled in about the space of 18 years.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting stat. High suicide rates amongst men. Men account for nearly 80% of all suicides in the US. The highest rate observed among 45 to 64-year-olds globally.
Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. Well, I'll go. Wait, I gotta let him finish that out. Hang on.
Suicide is the leading cause of death amongst young men. And a survey conducted in the UK found that an increasing amount of men feel hopeless.
Not enough. They're not dying quick enough. They're not, well, if they're committing suicide, it must be because of toxic masculinity. It must be because they have been raised on this chauvinistic, toxically masculine society that convinces them that they have to behave a certain way and have expectations of themselves. And that's why they're offing themselves, I don't know, at 5 times the rate of women. And if they get divorced, 9 times the rate. Wah, men. That's exactly the sentiment that was in the Twitter thread that came after this. And I'm going to show you each and every one of these on this one. Oops, wait a minute.
We've taken away their purpose. When you take a human being's purpose away, remember the purpose for men was to protect their family, it was to hunt in the old days.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think? This is so good, man. What do you think the response was from the ladies, from the little girls, I shouldn't say that, the militant, frothing at the mouth feminist girls, women, whatever, on, well, in this case, Twitter? What do you think their response was to that? Nothing's stopping men from hunting now. I'm like, that's not what she's saying, you dumb cunt. That's not what she's saying. Or it was, well, how come men can't find their purpose outside of, I don't know, protecting their family and outside of women? That was the next thing. The reason why is because of the feminist narrative. The feminist narrative is that women and men, well, in this case, women in particular, because it's feminism, right? Women and men should be autonomous things, androgynous and autonomous, self-fulfilling beings with no need for anything outside of themselves. Everything that happens, if a woman says, I need a man, that's a failure. If a man says, I need a woman, that's a failure. If a woman says, men and women are like, if I say this, I'm a guy, right? This is in my books. If I say men and women are innate complements to one another, evolved innate complements to one another. The strengths of one account for the weaknesses of the other. If I say men and women are better together than we are apart, that's failure. That it means you are not some autonomous thing that needs nothing from anything outside of yourself. You are self-fulfilling, self-empowering, autonomous, androgynous, homogenous, and you don't need anything outside yourself, which is 100% bullshit. Because the minute you start looking at human beings as social animals, I will tell you right now, all that stuff falls apart. And you know why it falls apart? Because it's based on ideology. It's not based on evolved, empirical, evolved evolutionary biology, evolutionary psychology, hell, anthropology, sociology, neurology, endocrinology, all the ologies that I always talk about, all that shit, that show, hell, I can show you fMRI brain scans of men and women and how the synapses like women's tend to be more cross-section, men's tend to be up, forward connected. But if you lay them both on top of each other, they're natural complements to one another. That is not a fucking accident. And that is not social engineering. That is not society. You are not wired that way. That's why when I get into all, I don't want to get too far and too deep in the weeds here, but that's one of the reasons why I have a real problem with trans ideology, because that's what it is. It's an ideology. There is no biological, no endocrinological, whatever, neurological evidence for any of this. None of it. In fact, if there is, people who identify as trans are 6 times more likely to have autism. There's your biological connection right there. Assuming the diagnosis is correct too. You got to remember that. What are you getting? You're getting a Ducati. I'm buying another Ducati soon, but I'm trying to figure out the next car. Riding a rad Jeep kind of over it. Should I go Porsche, Mustang, Camaro, or Vet? What do you think?
I mean, the Porsche is always going to be a Porsche. That's the thing.
Porsche is expensive.
I mean, yeah.
Well, so is a ZL1.
Exactly.
How fast do you want to drive? How bad do you want to kill yourself? If you want to kill yourself sooner, get the Camaro. I don't know, man. Maybe the Vet. Okay. Maybe the Vet. I would go with the Vet. I already have a Camaro. But if I was you and I had to change, if I had to say, okay, I'm not going to drive a Camaro anymore, I'd probably go for a Vet. And it would have to be like a C8. Although the C7s were pretty cool too. Supporting the Romanian translation. Thank you for your awesome work. Greatly appreciated. You are the man. Thank you. I know that's only what is that? 50 Romanian Ronnies or whatever that is. Close enough. All right. So let's continue.
Feed their families, but it was also to protect their families. It was to provide for their families. And what we've done in reversing everything is, although we raised up women, and there are certainly positive things about raising up women, but when we raised up women, we denigrated men. And I have 2 sons, so this is very personal for me. And I also see a lot of young men in my practice, young adult men. And what I'll say is that they feel discouraged, they feel purposeless, they feel diminished. Yeah. And there has been something vengeful, I think, about... So the feminist movement was meant to give women choice and to balance off what was imbalanced in society.
No, it wasn't.
But there's something vengeful about it. I think at moments I feel like there's something vengeful about the modern feminist movement, which is, let's get them, let's diminish them, let's take over, let's push them out, let's beat them up, let's get, let's show them something really vengeful. So So for me, the feminist movement was meant to create balance. It wasn't meant to set into play this other kind of imbalance.
Well, if you guys go back to the video I showed, well, that's Jake Rattlesnake put out, when we're looking at the sentiment of feminists through the ages. A lot of people still think feminism is like had come in waves, right? There's no such thing as waves of feminism. I'm going to tell you this right now. It has always been the same message since 1848. I think it was 1849 at the Seneca Falls Convention in 1849, I think it was. And by the way, yes, that was the same year, a year after the Communist Manifesto was published as well. Just saying, he's not incorrect about that. But if you look at some of the earlier, right, like Katie Stanton, I think it was Katie Stanton. At the time, she was the one who was, I think she was one of the organizers. She was one of the earliest suffragettes. And if you look, like if you just round it off, say 1850 till 1920, when the 19th Amendment was ratified, you have to remember that voting was a completely different animal back then. It was you had to have skin in the game at that time. And I think that was one of the things that really threw even the women of the time didn't want to have the ability to vote. They didn't want that. And I want to also, I'm going to insert a little bit of history here today, just to keep you guys on your toes. I have, where did it go? I have this great thing. This is the myth of male only voting rights. And thank you, hat tip to Dr. Steve Stewart Williams, who has a great new book coming out in June. Contrary to popular belief, the period of human history when men and women could vote, but women couldn't vote, or men could vote, but women couldn't vote, was relatively brief. For most of human history, no one could vote, okay? Not men and not women, okay? But right around the 1900s, that's when women started to be able to participate in the democratic process. So when you hear women complaining and bitching and moaning, like if you look back, there it is, 1850. That was right around the time, 1849, 1848, I believe, was when the look that up for me really quick. When the Seneca Falls Convention was, what year? I think it was 1848. But that was really the beginning of the suffragette movement in the United States, as well as the 1848. July 19th and 20th of 1848. That was really the beginning of the suffragette movement. And between about 1850 all the way up until 1920, the suffragettes were deemed terrorists at the time. They were responsible for political assassination. They were responsible for bombings, especially in the UK. There's a really great book. It's called The Suffragette Bombers. I would suggest anybody who has an interest in sort of like feminist history from a really like a historical perspective rather than an ideological perspective, go pick that. There's other books as well, but the Suffragette Bombers was a really good one. And essentially it was, why were these women considered terrorists? This is one of those reasons. So it was like, they're plotting they're very racist, very white supremacist, especially in the early days too, because they didn't want black men to have the vote, but they wanted women, and they didn't want black women to have the vote either. They just wanted white women to have the vote at that time. And so it was a very brief history between like 1848 and right around 1920, where women did not have the right to vote. And this was like worldwide. Okay. So if you look at that blue section right there towards the bottom right there up until 2022, pretty much still to this day, there's a few countries that hold out, but by and large, universal right to vote for women has been around since certainly since 1950. Let's just say that. Okay. But prior to that, look at that big brown section right there. Okay. That's when we had monarchies, and that's when we had tyranny. And that's when ain't nobody get a vote. Or only like landed money owners or moneyed landowners get a right to vote. So whenever you hear this shit come up on whatever podcast, right? Whenever you have some woman pops off about how women have been historically oppressed and we didn't have the right to vote. Well, my dear, neither did men. They didn't have any say in the process either. So there you go. But I just wanted to point this out is like I'm I have not heard too many people say this, although I think maybe a few, maybe Turd-Flinging Monkeys said this in the past, but there are no waves of feminism. There's only been, the suffragists, but feminism from 1848 up to where we are right now. If I'm talking about like current contemporary feminism, I call it like militant feminism, because feminism really didn't have any like legs. It didn't have any teeth. Wasn't getting any traction until after hormonal birth control and the sexual revolution. And that's what got the ball rolling. There was one piece of technology that men invented, right? I will give you that. And what happens after that? What happens once what happens once women have the right to vote and men create a new technology so you can fuck without having to worry about pregnancy? Well, this is what happens. The divorce rate and the oral contraceptive use. To my knowledge, I don't know if anybody has ever tracked this except for me. And this was you lay these two stats on top of each other and you look at the increase into the divorce rate that coincides with the increase of women using the pill. And look at that, right around 1970, 71. Yes, the book is coming. 1965 is right around when we peg the sexual revolution jumping off. But if you look from about 1965 all the way up until maybe 1977-ish right there, look at the jump in divorces in this. This is as a result of hormonal birth control. Well, who's been talking about this lately? Anybody been talking about this shit lately? Well, we want to talk about like fertility rates and we want to talk about all this other stuff, but really what happened during 1968, 1970? Well, that was when Ronald Reagan decided that he wanted to institute no-fault divorce in California. 1968, the year your red pill Jesus was born, was conceived and born, right? And so we've had no-fault divorce. And by the way, I looked this up on Perplexity. There's every state in the union has some form of no-fault divorce. And one by one, each state started to institute that. Why? This is why. Because there was such an influx of divorces as a result of the sexual revolution that came in the wake of hormonal birth control, that they needed some way to streamline the divorce process. So now you have James Sexton talking about how the money he can make as a New York City divorce attorney as a result of all this history from back in 1965, and all of this generated Mr. James Sexton, right? Or guys like him. That's where the industry came from. So I'm pointing this stuff out because there's so many like women in the comment sections, a comment thread that were responding to this thread about this video right here, talking about we've been oppressed and men are finally getting theirs. I'm like, well, the problem I have with that is when we start looking at fertility rates and women complaining about fertility rates, they want to say it's a male problem, and men, by the way, want to say it's a female problem, which somewhere in between those two is probably the result. But I'll tell you right here, this most definitely coincides with was right around 1975 is when the fertility rates fall off a cliff. So I've got another graph for you here in just a moment, but I'm going to continue with this. Here we go.
More than, I think, 60% of universities are women now, as well as graduate schools. And so that means, and the studies show that men will marry at their educational level or below. Women will only marry at their educational level or above.
Well, Mr. Assortative mating expert, what the fuck does that mean? Men will date at their education level or below. Women want to date at their educational level or above. Hypergamy, anyone? I guess dual mating strategy is a better, more robust theory for female mating strategies, innate evolved female mating strategies, than your fucked up assortative mating strategy is. All that is your inability to fucking cope for mate switching hypothesis. Thank you, Dr. David Buss. Everybody take a fucking drink, right? God, it's so easy. It's a curb this fucking high. It really is. It's dual mating strategy. Can you just get that through your heads? No, we can't. Why? Because we'll alienate all these women. They're already alienated. They already hate you. Rob Henderson, they already hate you. Steve Stewart Williams, they already hate you. Gad Saad, who was just on Rogan not so long ago, he's promoting his new book. What is it? It's not Parasitic Mind. It was the other one. It's Suicidal Empathy. That's what it is. Like, I love Gad Saad, and maybe he would agree with me. I think he probably would agree with me on like 90% of the shit. But you know what? They already hate you. They don't care. They don't care if you want to be their friend. They just want to hear what they want to fucking hear. How do I know that? Because I look at all the comments on this one thing. I don't even know who the chick is, right? Like, and she's basically trying to like ride the coattails of Helen Andrews right now. And I'll show you Helen Andrews here in just a second. But this agitated the harpies just were screeching after this.
And by diminishing men so much in terms of our education and professions, we basically taken men's purpose away. They feel purposeless.
And you know what they said? They should feel purposeless. Oh, wow. You can't find any meaning or purpose outside of women. You need women to validate your sense of identity or validate your being or whatever the fuck it is, right? And I'm just gonna, should I read some of these? Patriarchy hurts men too. Of course, right? Women will volunteer and make friends and have hobbies and build community based on caring for one another, while men are being red-pilled to use and abuse. Don't be shocked by their miserableness, right? I got Mark coming in. Mark, I'll get to you in just a second. Once again, I mean, these are just some of these. I'm looking at some of these things on here. It's like, why is she talking as if women are keeping men out of school? Nobody's doing that. See, that's the thing, is like, it's like they take every little word that she says, or even like how dare Steve Bartlett throw out numbers and stats that are going to in some way say, hey, you know what? Men aren't actually doing all that good. And I will say this, like, I've already done interviews with Richard Reeves. You can look at like Rob Henderson as well. I'm trying to think who else is. Scott Galloway. If you look at these guys, anybody that the sort of the mainstream left is trying to prop up as their version of Jordan Peterson or something. I don't know why Scott Galloway got involved in that, but if you look at what they're saying on Oprah or on these mainstream podcasts right now, they tiptoe around making men's issues. Making women responsible for men's issues. Like men have to be responsible. They have to be their own, what gets me is this. Have you seen the stats or whatever? I think they've done these I see it come up in my Twitter. I see it come up my Instagram now and then, where it's like they've got they talk about how women hate to see their man on the couch.
Oh, yes.
Like if you're taking a nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, you could be working like the fire line at Cal Fire or something like that to fight forest fires or something. And you come back after a 14-hour shift and you're on the couch at 2 p.m. What a lazy fuck. Like women hate seeing a guy sit on the couch for more than 20 minutes and you're worried about him, but yet he's supposed to like express his feelings and be vulnerable. Really? Okay.
The jack of all
like
trades.
nothing makes sense, man. It's like up is down and down is up, man. Anyways, I have this. There it is. No man is owed a woman, and women are increasingly marrying less educated men. Oh, darn. Whether one thinks that's good, bad, or neutral, it's literally on the rise. Yeah, because women, well, first of all, women think that status-wise they're above those guys to begin with, right? And maybe they are. Maybe it's women that have to be hypogamous, have to look at beneath their own level right now. Because a lot of people have been saying this, like there's supposed to be some sort of counterbalance to hypergamy. It's supposed to be hypogamy. I don't think it's a thing, especially not for guys, but as a term, as an abstract term, it just means dating below, like at or below, hypogamy, hypergamy, right? And so at this stage, I think what women are being are frustrated with is being told that they need to lower their standards. That's hypogamy. Well, I guess you're going to have to deal with it, ladies, because if you're going to be making, was it Lana Del Rey?
Lana Del Rey.
Lana Del Rey. Lana Del Rey is worth what, $30 million or some shit like that?
Right now.
Look it up. Find out what what Lana Del Rey's net worth is. And you know who she's married to? The alligator hunter who has an airboat. There is no dude that she's going to be able to get with that's going to make more money than she is that would want to get with Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, $30 million.
$30 million. See, I was right. And married to the alligator guy. Not that alligator hunter, the other alligator, the guy with the airboat. Okay. Married to that guy. That is a very good illustration of hypogamy. You mean I got to date below my social status? If you're as high status as Lana Del Rey, which very few women, if you believe you're as high status as Lana Del Rey, yes, you will. You will have to date below your status. That's just how it's going to work. I'm gonna show you the Helen Andrews thing here in a minute, but before I do that, I want to welcome Mark DeFont. Mark, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay, good
choice.
DeFont, Mark J. DeFont, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Good to join you.
Yeah, thanks. You sent me this great piece that you did. I guess it was back in September of last year, and it was Evolutionary Psychology and the Crisis of Empirical Rigor in Feminist Studies. And my very studious producer Kyle decided to go look you up, and I guess there's been some other people who are like talking about how they're saying professor takes on feminist studies, lacks rigor, claims not supported by data. And so I guess that they've been trying to sort of ratio you as far back as December 31st, which I would expect from a gynocentric social. They're going to have to find some way to sort of minimize your studies. Do you think that has this been put down a memory hole yet? And what is it about exactly?
Well, I'm got involved with evolutionary psychology, and basically I found that feminist studies was against evolutionary psychology, which is basically we have shown with data, evolutionary psychologists have, that there's differences biologically between the behavior of men and women, masculine and feminine. Now, the two of us might think that's fairly obvious, but not to feminists. And they would argue that everything is culture. So when you're born with a blank slate, you have no instincts, and culture is everything. So if you're gay, it's due to culture. If you're masculine, it's due to culture, so on and so forth. So ultimately, culture is everything to them. And that's called social constructionism. And anyway, gets me going crazy. So, I mean, I'm happy to go in further in that. I'm just trying to answer your question.
Yeah, sure. In fact, I'd like to, because you kind of have a different spin on this. And I've always, in my books and in my writing and my just sort of education on all this is, I've kind of nailed it down or distilled it down to about 4 pillars of sort of, I guess it would be certainly feminist thought, but but I guess liberal progressivism, wokeism, whatever, for lack of a better term. And it kind of boils down to these 4 pillars. It's emotionalism, egalitarianism, the blank slate, and social constructionism. And those are sort of the 4 legs of the stool. And if you kick out one of those legs or 2 of those legs, everything else falls down. So every belief set, every issue that they have a problem with is always based on the premise of those concepts, I guess, being preeminent, and they are sort of the scaffolding for anything that is we would consider, whether it's gender identity, whether it's intersectional feminism, whether it's I don't know, just voting habits of women or whatever. I'm going to put this up here really quickly because I kind of want to get your opinion on this as well. I just recently was using this on Access Vegas and Rule Zero here. This just came out not too long ago. It's a partisan gap between young men and women almost doubled in the last 25 years. And so this is the political ideology here. So if you look at that center line there, that's even. That's like some like really middle of the road. That's not so much conservative or not so much liberal. Men tend to run just slightly more conservative, like right around the +10 side, right there. Very little does it go any further than that. And you're
Look
looking
at women. Wow.
when you look at women, yeah, exactly. So especially when you look at it from right about 2022, right about there, right after the pandemic. And so
Getting into wokeism.
yeah, so exactly. And so a lot of people who are, analyzing this stuff right now are saying that it's not guys who've been radicalized, it's really women who've been radicalized. And they're saying, people are wondering why. There's a lot of theories as to why this is happening like this. But it's wokeism, it's social media, it's what is it? Engagement capture, I think is what they're calling it. So like it's getting, sort of leaning women towards the left side of things. But if you look at the top part right there, right around 2021, 2022, and then you compare it to where men were at that time, you're not looking at a 23-point gap. You're looking at more like a 30-point gap right there.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the more liberal side of that spectrum relies on all of those things I was just saying, which is emotionalism, social constructionism, the blank slate, and egalitarianism. And if those are the normative, if we say the way that women experience the world is the normal way, is the correct way for everyone to experience the world, then it looks like men are the ones that have been radicalized because there's such a deep separation between the two of them. But the fact of the matter is it's women who have been radicalized almost like 30 points to the liberal left as a result of either capture or however it is, feminist radicalization, female, what I call fempowerment. And I just wanted to sort of get your opinion on that and see how that kind of like gels with what you were talking about in your research there. And let's see, where was it? Oh, evolutionary psychology and the crisis of empirical rigor in feminist studies. I think this is interesting because one of the things that sort of got my curiosity about your paper here is that I don't think to my knowledge anyways, I don't think anybody has taken evolutionary psychology and sort of applied it towards the like making feminist ideology dependent on like empiricism and dependent on like objective understanding on the scientific method, right? On evolutionary psychology, instead of it just being ideological. So can you go into a little bit about what your paper's about?
Yeah, I'd love to. You first, before I do that, though, you mentioned the great feminization.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you're familiar with Helen Andrews. And,
Yeah.
I'm leaning a great deal towards her idea that wokeism is due to the women taking over various demographics. And so maybe we could get into that if you'd like a little bit later on.
Sure.
I'm trying to do some new research on that to either support or discount her idea. But to get into evolutionary psychology, yes. And look, for years, I've watched feminism in the university system talk about all kinds of political things and really in an indoctrination way, and with little substance to back up what they're saying. And it astounds me that these things can take over in the university when there's no empirical basis for them making these statements. One of those statements, which you've already talked about, is evolutionary psychology. And it's simply because they don't like the idea that there are biological reasons for the way we behave. And it gets down to, well, they think that evolutionary psychology is pushing the old ways where men rule and women are subordinate. It's not true at all. What we're doing is we're trying to explain why we behave the way we do now based on our past hundreds of thousands of years of evolution in hunter-gatherer society. So it's they're wrong. I mean, I don't know how any other way to put this in a kind way. And I don't believe, and they're wrong in a lot of other things that they're saying too, which I go into in my paper, like, fat studies. saying that, you know, you can be healthy at any size, which is just pure nonsense if you look at the medical research. So my point is that I don't think these people should be on a college campus where you know, we have a whole spectrum of studies which aren't interested in the truth and more interested in indoctrination and ideology. So ultimately, that's the crux of my paper. I'd be happy if you'd like to get into a little bit of evolutionary psychology and explain to you why we think that, you know, there's a physical basis for the way we behave. But you can imagine the grief I've taken from, you know, the feminists.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of a few Evo Psych guys. One of them is Dr. Steve Stewart Williams. I'm sure you're probably familiar with him. I was a big fan of David Buss. Yeah. But The Ape That Understood the Universe is, I think, one of the best books. That's always going to be on my reading list. He's got a new one coming out that's like gender differences or something like that. That's coming out in June, and I've already got a pre-order for it. But I can tell you that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, because he's already like putting out like sample chapters on like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now. Yeah, and I'm just like, ooh, this is not going to go over well.
I got a nice note from him when he saw my paper. He said, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah. So, the one, like you mentioned Helen Andrews before now, and I like Helen. I just don't think she's quite complete yet. I think that one of the reasons she's kind of catering her message for a more conservative audience, and nothing wrong with that, but I think she's just sort of like sticking to certain topics just because she knows that that's what's going to play at like the conservative media that she's talking at, right? One of the things I've said pretty like as far back as like 2017, I have articles on my blog, The Rational Male, about the feminine imperative in corporate culture, right? Which is essentially what she's been talking about, whether it's academia, whether it's well, in this case, the U.S. workplace, and just how a female way of thinking has sort of entered into institutions that were founded and organized by the way men would organize things. So I've always said this, is that men organize societies in hierarchies, whereas women organize societies in the round. And that goes back to our hunter-gatherer days. Like, women tend to be way more, just like psyche-wise, they tend to be more communitarian in their way of organizing societies, because they're the vulnerable sex. They're the ones that have to incubate the next generation, right? They have to think about long-term security for themselves and for their offspring. And so when you put women into a tribe of 100 to 150 people, they tend to congregate together because there's safety in numbers, and if you can get enough people to, enough women anyways, to help, like, it takes a village to raise a child, that kind of mentality. It makes sense. It's practical. Like, if you're one of the gatherers and the men are out, hunting or something like that, and are coming back, that seems like a good way to organize society. So I would argue, anyways, from an evolutionary perspective, that women's when it comes to organizing societies on a meta scale, at scale, when you empower women politically and socially, that seems like the best way to go about it. That's why you get like liberal democratic governments. That's why socialism seems like a good idea. That's why I don't even say socialism even. That's why a communitarian ideal seems a better way, or an egalitarian way of doing politics is in the round. Whereas for men, it's hierarchical. So there's the general, and there's the lieutenant, and then there's a general, there's the captain, there's a lieutenant, there's on down the chain of command all the way to the private, or the CFO, or the CEO, CFO, COO, down to the janitor, so there's always this hierarchy of performance. People, like women, would say it's a dominance hierarchy. It could be, but it's really a performance hierarchy. Who's doing the job and who's doing this job? There's a status that's implied by that, because men tend to organize societies and organize businesses and organize sports teams and organize the military in the terms of hierarchies. And because it seems like the most natural way for guys to do it. And it's been like, capitalism tends to be more hierarchical, whereas communism or socialism tends to be more female thinking. So woke. That's why I was saying when Helen Andrews is talking about how to be woke is to be a woman. It's like, well, yeah, of course it is, because that's communitarianism, that's egalitarianism, it's emotionalism, it's social constructionism, as you were saying. And it relies on the blank slate. It can't not rely on the blank slate, because if it's about biology, then it's deterministic as opposed to subjective, and we can all just sort of go along to get along, because it's easier to explain society's problems if it's based on conditioning and behavioral stuff, as opposed to it actually being part of your genetics. And I don't know if you read anything from Steve Stuart Williams, but you probably are familiar with the 4 laws of behavioral genetics, right? And how personality and a lot of the behaviors that human beings perform are actually the function of genetics. It's not to say that it's all genetics, but it's mostly genetics.
No, it is. It's a lot of genetics, which goes against the grain with them.
Yeah. And so I think one of the problems is when you're trying to get an objective empirical answer from them. Like if you looked at like Matt Walsh when he did like What is a Woman, you're never going to get an answer for that.
No, that's for sure.
Because for them to give you an objective answer would mean that they would have to like sort of re-examine their identity that was built on the subjectiveness of whatever truth is for them.
Well, women are social. I mean, they are very, very social. They tend to gravitate towards those social. And your point about the great feminization and wokeism, if you look at, there's a wonderful paper I wanted to bring to your attention. It's by Corey Jane Clark. It says From Warriors to Warriors, the Culture Rise of Women. And maybe you're familiar. She went out and polled bright women and found that they think completely differently than we do. And that's why we have, for example, the loss of freedom of speech, the use of meritocracy is going down the drain because women are tending to take over these institutions. And these are things that I've always held dear in my life, and to see them going by the wayside gets me pulling my hair out. So yeah, I'm very sensitive towards all of this for sure.
I think that a lot of what like in my, I guess what was it? In my 4th book was religion. I was going into how women were sort of assimilating mainstream religions at that time. And really it was kind of like the sort of the germ of the idea of really what Helen Andrews is going into right now about wokeism and stuff. I think if Helen would lean a little bit more towards like the maybe she just doesn't have the experience, but like if she would leaned more towards the biological underpinnings of why do women think the way they do, right? Why does it seem like a good idea to do things egalitarian wise? Like, here, redistribution of wealth, redistribution of resources. It seems like a good idea to get everybody, you get one and you get one and you get one and you get one, as opposed to like hierarchically, you get paid more than the guy who's a step below you, who gets on down the hierarchy right there. And so men have these sort of competition hierarchies, or these performance hierarchies, whereas women, like when we look at like concepts like respect, for example, there's actually 2 different definitions of respect in the dictionary. And one of them is like merit-based. It's like, what do you do that makes you respectable? Like, how do you merit respect? And then the other one is respect is common. It's what I call the female version of respect versus the male version of respect. The female version of respect is everyone deserves respect, no matter what. Everybody gets a participation trophy because you're part of the group. We don't want anybody to feel bad. There's always this. That's why you got safe spaces. That's why you've got, especially when in academia, it's really easy to see. But like that's why you don't want to offend anyone. You were saying, was it warriors to warriors? Warriors to warriors. Yeah. And I think one of the maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read the entire thing, but I've got snippets of it. But one of the things is that because men and women think differently and we are wired differently biologically, I think a lot of this has to do with evolutionary biology as much as it does.
Well, that's essentially evolutionary psychology. It's biology.
Yeah, I think that people keep saying like, well, the red pill is so dependent on evolutionary psychology. I'm like, yeah, but it's going to be Evo Bio that actually proves it.
Yeah.
But the long and the short of it is that men and women don't process emotions the same way, and we don't prioritize certain interpretive processes the same way. So, like, I always look at it this way: is like there's the way that human beings interpret information from their environment, from their surroundings, is through instinct, emotion, and reason. And so this is like, I don't know if you're familiar with the triune mind theory, which I think really needs to have some. Triune mind theory is this: is there's like the way that human beings interpret their surrounding stimuli, whatever, through our senses, through sight, sound, touch, taste, all that stuff, is through instinct, which is if I throw something at you, you're going to instinctively get out of the way, right? Or it's like instinct's easy because it's usually self-preservation, like it's the adrenaline, right? Like fight or flight, that's definitely instinct. And then like revulsion, like you don't want to be around like dead bodies because pathogens, right? So revulsion is an instinctual thing. And that is founded in like the hindbrain and the lizard brain. It's like in the stem of the brain is where that happens. So those are like the autonomous, automatic instinctual responses that help keep you alive. And then there's the emotional side, which is like sort of the center of the brain. I want to say it's the amygdala. I'm not really sure exactly what it was, but whatever the center of the brain is where the emotional side of where your emotions start. And it's like, how do you feel about this? And feeling is also a pretty fast response too, especially if it's one of the base emotions. Is that what it is? What is it? That's the stem is where instinct is. It's like the midbrain right there.
Medulla.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the brain stuff right here. But if you look, sort of the center brain is like really where the emotions begin. And so emotions are pretty fast, right? So fear is an emotion. That's a base emotion. Happiness, joy. Sure. I think there's like 5 base there might be 7, like 5 base emotions. That's pretty much where that starts from. So that's the emotional response, and that's a pretty quick response. And then there's the rational reason response, which is your gray matter, right? And that's slowest because you have to learn that stuff and you have to know how to, it's like learning how to do karate or how to drive a car. Like human beings didn't evolve to drive cars, but you can learn how to drive a car pretty effectively if you just keep doing it and everything else. So it's not a natural instinct. There's certain instinctual aspects of it, but learning how to drive a car is really all about gray matter and reason. And as far as the neurological studies I've seen right now is that women tend to prioritize instinct, then emotion, and then reason. For men, it's instinct, reason, and then emotion. So what happens if you're faced with a decision, you're faced with a life-threatening situation or whatever like that, instinctually you're try to get out of there. Like instinct is the first thing that happens no matter what. For women, it's, oh my God, it's the emotional response immediately. And then how do I solve the problem, which is reason. For men, it's instinct. And then how do I solve this problem? And then how did I feel about it? And that's why men and women don't process emotion in the same way that the other one does. But the problem is we've standardized, because of feminism, a gynocentric social order, or whatever, we standardize that the female way of doing it is the proper, normal way for everyone to do it, courtesy of the blank slate, right? Because there's this idea that like men are not emotionally intelligent, right? Or like if we didn't cry at the end of Titanic, or we have some sort of emotional retardation, or we're not in touch, we're not emotionally available, or whatever. And the real reason for that is mechanically, brain-wise, like we don't have the same machinery. We don't process emotion the same way that women do. Women tend to default to crying. Men tend to default to anger. Which one is socially more acceptable? Crying or anger? Today,
whatever women say.
Yeah, exactly.
And my research is finding that same thing. And I don't know. I find that what women are trying to do through all this is to make men more like women. And that's where the toxic masculinity comes in my opinion. And that's why I think a lot of times they don't like to accept the biological aspects of evolutionary psychology, which is that masculine is hardwired and feminine is hardwired. Makes sense, because ultimately evolution is always about all about procreating. And so we need things to attract us to the opposite sex. So men are attracted to femininity in general, and women are attracted to masculinity, but not in the feminist world where this is all culture, that men and women are the same. And this has serious repercussions, because the American Psychological Association, which is the largest psychological association in the world, has picked up on feminism, and they've written a whole series of how should therapists treat different people. And they've done one back in 2018 on how they should treat men and boys, and basically it was a takedown of the way men behave. That we've got to make men more like women was the basic theme of the whole report. And the men, mostly men, wrote that report. They called themselves feminists. They're right out of the feminist mold. I didn't know men could be feminists, but anyway, they call themselves scientific feminists. There's no science in what they're doing, by the way. And I certainly wouldn't recommend any therapist that believes in this kind of nonsense. Maybe I'm being too strong, but the idea that masculinity is something that you can change, or that men are bad because they behave masculine, is an attack on all men. My position is that we shouldn't be accepting this. And I see a lot of men in universities, kind of shaking their head and saying, "Yeah, I agree with that." Whereas I think it's a lot of times just to get along with women, they agree with them. Maybe I would do that too if I was looking for a date for Saturday night, but it's a whole different story from my view.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of like male feminism, for lack of a better term, isn't just sort of a mating strategy given.
I thought that too.
Yeah, given the conditions, like it's a workaround.
You want to get around, you want to get along, get laid. I guess that's a good way to do it.
It's a workaround. Yeah, identify. And I again, something else I've written about in the past, which is like men tend to identify, like they want to identify with the feminine. So whatever women are saying that they're looking for in a guy, guys are going to try to give that back to them. Right. Right. That's right. So if the idea is that the more alike you are with the woman, or the more you identify with the feminine, is going to be the path to you successfully reproducing, right? You're going to, the competition instinct kicks in, and you're going to be the most feminine, most identifying, most you're going to be bad. I'm going to go up and I'm going to rage against the machine for women, right? I'm going to be a male feminist. I'm going to go completely against my natural imperatives, because if that's what's going to get me to help me solve my reproductive problem, it's just a adaptive contingency at that point. And I think a lot of that kind of happened right around the time of the sexual revolution, which came in the wake of hormonal birth control. And so I think that, like, you and I probably wouldn't even be having this conversation had it not been for one invention or one technology, which is a pill that allows human beings to have sex without the worry, or relatively without the worry of pregnancy. And the problem with that is it put the fate of humanity, the reproductive fate of humanity, in the hands of one sex. Like up until about 1965, with the rise of the pill. I mean, I'll put this back up here a second here. Like if you look at the rise of the divorce rate versus the rise of women using the pill. I mean, I know that correlation is not causation, but this is a hell of a correlation right here. Yeah. And so if you look at the divorce rate right there versus oral contraceptive use with hormonal birth control, it's not hard to see how things changed. Like you're also looking at a time like, what is it? 1974 was when Roe v. Wade was ratified. And then you've got 1968 when no fault divorce came around to address all of the landslide of divorces in California. And then later on, every other state in the union. And
73% of women initiate divorce.
Yes. It's funny. I still have to fight women on that topic too. Like, well, it's because men drive them crazy, and I'm like, yeah, well, that doesn't explain the lesbian rate of divorce either. So it's like, you still got an uphill battle there, right? And of course, the reason for that is because women are incentivized, like financially and socially incentivized to divorce. It makes better. I mean, if you look, if you look at it might still be today, but I remember when Mackenzie Bezos got divorced from Jeff Bezos. Yep. And if you looked at I think it was the Forbes top, like the richest women in the world, like the top 10 women in the world, who are the richest women in the world, they all made their money either through they inherited it or it was divorce. And I remember when Mackenzie Bezos, like everybody's saying, well, she helped make that company. I go, $33 billion worth. I'm like, she helps, but $33 billion. Like, and I remember people kept trying to like sort of lessen the blow, saying, well, it wasn't divorce. I'm like, she earned all of that. $33 billion. She earned all of that. So, but again, it kind of goes back to not wanting to give away the function, not want to give away the mechanics, or the machinery behind all of that. But then, like, if you go and you look at the changes that happened between 1971 and where we're at right now, like you see, we've been below fertility, replacement fertility in the United States since 1975.
It's getting scary.
Nobody banged a gong about it until now. I'm like, the time to do it was back in, I hear Elon Musk constantly, oh yeah, we're got to be worried about fertility rates. And even like what South Korea is going to be like disappear in the next,
well, Japan, Germany, all of them have demographic problems.
Yeah. And everybody wants to provide some sort of, reasoning for this, except the most obvious one, which is we have hormonal birth control. And as a result of that, we have empowered women to be the arbiters of human reproduction. That's it. Simple as that. I don't care what your financial incentives are. Like, oh, you get married and have kids, we're going to like, you can live tax-free in Poland or wherever it is, right? That's you're just putting a Band-Aid on the symptom rather than the actual problem there. And I don't know if there's necessarily a solution to that, but I want to like get back to like what you're talking about with like feminism being, well, because I've always said feminism is an ideology anyways, but not being based on empirical data. And so you were making comparisons in your paper about how articles, like especially like specific parts of feminism, are really founded primarily on a belief set rather than statistics, rather than understanding biology. I think one of the points that I've made in the past is like one of the reasons I have a problem with like Carl Jung or certainly Freud or Abraham Maslow or even B.F. Skinner. And I have a background in behavioral psychology. So, but all those guys they're still basing those theories from the data and from the understanding we had of human nature when they were active, which for like Carl Jung was like what in the 30s or 40s, right? Like that was when he was at his peak. But we're still dependent on what has become a belief set, courtesy of what Carl Jung has been saying, right, forever. And again, these were theories at the time. Now we've plotted the human genome. Now we have fMRI studies. Now we have evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology. We have this whole, panoply of new data in the 21st century that pretty much makes a lot of that shit obsolete. I'm not saying they didn't have contributions. They did, but like...
No, you're right. The history of psychology is the history of blank slates. I mean, almost every psychologist promoted blank slate. You were born into the world with a blank slate.
Mm-hmm. And everything, and pretty much society or whatever the society you were born into is responsible for what your identity ends up becoming.
Right. Conrad, the guy that got ducks to follow around and imprint on him.
Yeah, that was yeah. Conrad, yeah.
Conrad, that's his first name, I think. Anyway, he was pilloried for showing things like, that we might have instinct, ducks following, imprinting, and things like that. So he won a Nobel Prize for that work too, which is kind of interesting. He got taken down because of it. I think he was sympathized with the Nazis or something along.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah,
to be sure. Well, I can get into this. I'd like to, because maybe your audience would like to know more about why I think that this is biological, or why evolutionary psychologists think this is biological. You mentioned women in the pill, but really the one reason why women are reluctant to have indiscriminate sex is primarily because they got pregnant and we didn't. So we see that going back all the way to hunter-gatherer society. But let me just get you to think about how we've evolved. If you go back 4 to 7 million years ago, you would find one of our ancestors out there that walked upright. So we came out of trees somewhere between 4 and 7 million years ago, based on DNA dating and or DNA clocks. And within that time, we see the brain, which was about chimpanzee size with Australopithecine, and that evolved basically overnight, geologically speaking, to the size of brains we have, Homo sapiens. And it's still greatly debated what caused that large brain. It certainly happened out on the savannas. It might have been due to language, it might have been due to communication, might have been due to things like being able to decide whether someone is lying to you or not. There's a lot of hypotheses out there, but no clear, no one subject has been found to be true or supported by the data. But it is fast, and when you get something like that happening fast, other parts of evolution can't keep up with it. So, for example, when you get a brain with that large, or when you get a head with that large a brain inside of it, it's going to be hard to deliver babies. And that's what happened. Women got enlarged hips, but wasn't enough even with that to birth a child which had a brain the size of the human brain. So babies or fetuses only develop about 25% of their brain before they're born. And so after they're born, anybody that's had a child knows this, they come out totally helpless. So that puts a huge burden on the mother. That mother is totally responsible for that baby and whether that baby survives or not. I mean, take, for example, a deer. When a deer is born, within almost minutes, they're up and running. They have to be because they got a lot of predators out there that want to eat them. With humans, though, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. We always had the trees to go back up into, and out on the savanna, we had a certain amount of protection from the men in the tribe. And then, so what does that mean? Women, no doubt about this, we can look at many different aspects, but women started looking for men that could provide what we call parental investment in evolutionary psychology. And so if you were willing to give parental investment, then you got access to the female and you had children and you raised the family. So cultures can tell us a lot. For example, there are a lot of major studies, like we're talking 60,000 people in a couple of studies that were asked around the world what they preferred in men or what they preferred in women. And the women said universally that they preferred men who could bring home resources. And men, just the opposite, men wanted women. And this is a cross culture, so we know it's not culture because it's that way in all cultures. Men prefer what we would call beautiful women, and we all agree in general on what a beautiful woman is. And the reason for that is that beauty is a fill-in for things like youth and health. No question that based on tons of studies show that health in women that are beautiful are much greater than in women that we would consider not so beautiful. In fact, beauty tends to be, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but they took pictures and they started overlapping them with the new computer programs that we got. And they found that the averaged out woman is more beautiful to men than any particular separate woman. And the thinking there is that beauty is simply an average of the way women look in a culture. And so men are trying to get into, it looks like, into the middle of the bell curve, where there's probably not a lot of variation in, odd things that can create health problems. So if you're in the middle, the idea being that, you're not going to be on the edges with strange disorders. In addition to that, of course, there are the supermodels who just are examples of very much youth. And youth plays into this from the standpoint that, men want women that can have lots of babies. If you marry someone that's young, and in hunter-gatherer society, that's all women did was have babies and lactate. So you could have, if you're a man in hunter-gatherer society, you could have more babies and passing on your genes with a woman that was young. And back then, men had lots of children. So we don't do that today because societies, have given us wealth. But ultimately, this sets up a dichotomy between what men and women are looking for. And so it's not surprising that men are not discriminating. There's a wonderful, perhaps you've heard about it, there's a wonderful study out there. I'm digressing a little bit here, but it's worth going into. A researcher, a woman, took her grad students and she sent them to libraries on campus, and she said, go out there and ask people to go home with you and have sex, not people with the opposite sex. And probably not surprising to anybody out there listening, 100% of the women said no. And when women were asking men, 75% of the men said yes. And the other 25% that said no gave some excuse like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm married, or, whatever it was that they gave an excuse for, which says a lot about the way men and women behave. And even with the pill, we're still, women still have this reluctance to have, indiscriminate sex, and men don't. And you can see this in the gay community where, gay men have a lot of indiscriminate sex because they can, or at least they did before we had problems with health in that area. But same thing with, I don't want to get into too much onto that, but I think you see where I'm going here. So this is really, when women are out there and they're looking for men that are going to bring home the bacon, they're looking for men that take risks, that are willing to take risks, that are brave, that can go out there. And a lot of people don't know it, but animals, even animal on hoofs, can be quite dangerous, especially when they're wounded. So you have to be careful, you have to be brave, and you have to work with each other. So you talk about men, getting together in clusters today. Well, that goes back to hunter, and men are much better at locating themselves than women are. We always talk about that, but men if you test men and women, men do much better. Men are also much better at targeting. So all of the Olympic shooting and bow and arrow contests in the Olympics, men have much better records, world records, than women in those kinds of competitions. So there's no question that, in my mind anyway. And then you think about testosterone. Men have 10 times the amount of testosterone than women do. It makes us different. It does. And it's due to the fact that that we're more willing to take risk, not only out hunting, but now in working 80-hour weeks. If you look at the difference in the pay gap, which every feminist tries to say is, men's dominance over women. But if you look at that gap and you go look at the research, economists are telling us, and female economists are telling us, Claudia Goldin's a good example. She won the Nobel Prize in this field. They're telling us that gap is due to choices made by women. They go and they stay home to raise children, partly in their career, and it really hammers their career for making money. But we have men and women that they stay in the same jobs and they work as hard, they get the same pay. But it's not true if women take time off, or if they don't want to work those 80-hour weeks. Men are much more willing to go into those high competition types of scenarios because we like high risk, or at least a lot of men do. I won't say all men. And then finally, this idea of patriarchy drives me crazy.
Okay.
Women tell us that there's this patriarchy out there where men are getting together and they're trying to suppress women. And my contention there is that that's just plain bullocks. I don't know about you, but I'm not getting together with anybody on the weekends to decide how we can suppress women.
We're not getting in some darkened room with cigarettes. And
no, we're not. But women claim that all the time. How many times did Hillary Clinton say, "Oh, I lost because of the patriarchy," or the same with Biden's vice president,
Kamala lost because of and Myron Gaines.
Well, I'm sure it was racism, but anyway.
Yes.
So we have this silly notion, and my contention based on my research is that there is a patriarchy where men dominate to a certain extent, at least now in our society, but it's left over from our evolution in hunter-gatherer society where we're high risk. Women gave away, they don't want to, for the most part, be in leadership roles. They don't want to work 80-hour days. They want to be home being mothers for this, even though a lot of women have been castigated for having children today and being stay-at-home moms, but children are a lot better off when they do that. I'm talking too much.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I like that you got to patriarchy too, because I wanted to. You hit so many topics I've talked about before. But like the patriarchy thing, I'm glad you brought that up because I've written a couple of articles about this, and I think that first of all, patriarchy has been sort of like this boogeyman for feminists for a long time. Like if you go back to like what I call the militant feminists of like the late 60s and early 70s, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, the rest of them, right? All the usual suspects. Patriarchy has always been something that's been like this nebulous sort of like, like social tyranny that has always existed. And now we finally are in an age where we can just sort of emancipate ourselves from all of this. And I wrote this article because especially in the manosphere, we had this, I think it was TFM, Turd Flinging Monkey was talking about how responsibility without authority is essentially slavery. Okay. And so when we're talking about how women have all the authority and they expect men to have responsibility without that authority, it's essentially slavery. So you'll hear like traditional conservatives will, even to this day, will say that the solution to our cultural, our gender problems is that men need to man up and they need to take responsibility. And
yes,
and it sounds like a good man up message. The problem is those men don't have the authority in a gynocentric social order to affect the responsibilities that we say that they should have, right? And so what I was saying is like what feminists really fear is not patriarchy. They fear androcentrism as opposed to gynocentrism. So if you look at responsibility without authority is slavery. What's the reverse of that? That is 100% authority with no responsibility. That's a definition of tyranny. Okay. And so if you have gynocentrism where women, even to this day, we say, well, women don't want to be held accountable. They'll try to find ways to blame it on men or whatever it is. There's all this sort of this social narrative, this sort of undertow of men being responsible for all this stuff. And yet we don't have the authority to affect that. That's, like I said, synonymous with slavery. But on the opposite side, we'll say, well, women won't take accountability. Like there's a big accountability thing these days, especially in our podcast these days, how women won't be held accountable or they try to avoid responsibility, but they still have the authority to decide what it is, especially when it comes to like abortion, like who lives or dies, basically. That's some authority right there. So my theory is that you're looking at two different versions of sort of totalitarianism, really, which is tyranny, right? So there's androcentrism, which is really what the early feminists were calling patriarchy at that time, which was this fear of men having all the authority and no responsibility. That's how you get like The Handmaid's Tale on HBO, right? Like where it's like these women are being
I never watched it.
Have babies and they're like wearing those little red frocks and white hats. Even today, you'll see them like marching around at like feminist parades and shit like that.
Yes,
but that fear, that the reason why that's effective, the reason why that they even do that in the first place, is because that whole narrative, that fantasy world of Gilead or wherever the Handmaid's Tale is, that is based on a fear of androcentrism, which is men have all the authority and women have with no responsibility, and women have all the responsibility and no authority, right? So that would be androcentrism. That would still be tyranny. The opposite to that is gynocentrism, which is women have all the authority and men must bear all of the responsibility without that authority. But patriarchy is different. Okay. In a traditional sense, in a conventional sense, patriarchy is the natural form of organizing societies for human beings because men have greater body strength. We're the ones who don't have to bear fortunately, don't have to bear the burden of pregnancy. We're not incubating the next generation of human beings. Women are the vulnerable sex. Men tend to be the sacrificial sex, or people say the disposable sex. But nature takes more chances with men than it does with women. And that's why you'll see guys have this, what I call the innate protector dynamic. So you can be at like a mass shooting, like here in Vegas, like back in like 2017, when you have, and there, 77 people died.
77.
And there was incident after incident of guys throwing themselves bodily in front of women they didn't even know and taking a bullet for those women. And they couldn't tell you, if the ones that survived, I'm sure, couldn't tell you why they did that. It was just an instinct to do it. If you look at the shooting in Aurora, Colorado with James Holmes, at that time when he started shooting, guys would throw themselves in front of women to take the bullet for the woman. They didn't know why they were.
Well, look at Trump assassination. The guy that died there threw himself in front of his wife.
In front of his wife, right? And so there's this natural instinct of men to want to sacrifice their lives in order. I believe it's an evolutionary, part. It's part of our firmware. Let's just say to want to protect the woman because women are the vulnerable sex.
And the children.
Protect the woman, protect the children. They're fragile. I am strong, right? So therefore, I'm the one that has to sacrifice myself in whatever that means. That means I have to go be violent and kill this guy over here so he doesn't invade my tribe or take my woman or kill my child, right? And so there's this innate kind of protector dynamic, and that's what patriarchy is built around. So patriarchy was definitely authority for men, but it was responsibility for men. If you're going to be a patriarch of your family, of your tribe, of your city, of your whatever it is, if you're going to be a patriarch, not only are you responsible for your wife and your kids and everything else, you have a responsibility to them, as the traditional conservatives would say, but you also have the authority to affect all of the things that you're responsible for. So if your child becomes a criminal, you, as the father, are personally responsible for that. If your wife goes and ruins the business or does something that like brings you ruin, or if she goes and murders somebody, you're responsible because you're the husband and you should have that woman under your control, right? That would, and you could right up until the sexual revolution, right up until the empowerment of women. And so you, like, as a patriarch, it was a much more balanced system than feminism, than gynocentrism, because you had responsibility as a man, but you also had the authority to enact that. Now, of course, what they say is, well, that authority, men would abuse that and they would want to be, tyrants in their house and everything. I'm saying, in an idealized sense, in an ideal world, the patriarchy, if it works, that's how it's supposed to work, right? That's why matriarchy never took off, right? People can name a handful of matriarchal societies, but the reason why those don't work is because it becomes the longhouse, right? There's the female matriarch, and that's it. And there's she's got authority, but it doesn't work the same way as patriarchy does. Gynocentrism definitely works for women, and it's only been possible in the last 60, 70 years as a result of one invention, which was the hormonal birth control and everything, that all the social changes that came after that. So my argument is that patriarchy in its most evolutionary form is a system of organizing society around men, yes, for sure, but men also have a responsibility as a patriarch to their community, to their tribe, to their family, that has a commensurate level of authority so that he is able to affect all the things that he's responsible for. And that's the way that it works, whether it was through physical force or it was just sort of societal respect. doing so, like, again, remember we talked about like the difference in respect with men and women. That guy was a patriarch because he was at the top of his game, and so everybody respected him as the patriarch because he had earned that place at some point in the respect hierarchy. I guess.
And the same with tribes with alpha males.
Yeah, that's exactly. And what it's funny you should say that because there's a really great book, by the way. It's called Alpha God. It's by Dr. Hector Garcia, and he goes into a lot of the evolutionary psychology of tribalism and human beings as compared to, like, from a religious sense, compared to primates, primatologists, right? And so just like alpha primates, alpha men have been defined by three things throughout history, which is territory, resources, and access to, hopefully, virgin women, but it didn't have to necessarily be that. But, like dynastic emperors of China had like the Forbidden City and they're guarded by eunuchs, and they were there to just breed with the emperor or the tribal chieftain, or in Europe, it might've been the king or Caesar or whatever else. That powerful man had access to multiple women that he could, because we wanted to make more Caesars. We wanted to make more emperors. We wanted to make more kings, right? And then resources and territory. And what do those represent? Provisioning and protection. Provisioning, protection, and, as you said, parental investment. Those are the three things that are sort of on the one side of what I call the hypergamous, dual mating strategy. The opposite side of it is alpha fucks. Like, you got to be hot enough for that woman to want to have sex with you in the first place, so that she has the breeding imperative, right? She wants to get with that guy because she wants that guy's genes, right? She wants to get with that guy short term, have sex with him, have his babies, and if he happens to also be a good provider, protector, and he's parentally invested, that's the full package, right? If he's not,
and she may be judging subconsciously too.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Well, I was gonna say, the thing is like, from a political sense right now, I don't know how many different interviews I've seen this on, like Chris Williamson or Steve Bartlett or hell, even Tom Beaulieu. There's this constant drone of how men aren't measuring up, and men aren't built, men aren't what they used to be, and like what can men provide women that women can't get for themselves, right? So when you look at like the sort of alpha fuck side of it and the beta buck side of it, which is provisioning, protection, and parental investment, if women can provide that for themselves, if that through either the state or through empowerment, through work, through college, through education, through business, through whatever it is, if they're already providing the long-term security that they need, what's left? They just want to get with a hot guy. That's all that's left is the guy that they want to breed with and they want to have sex with, because the guys who they would have normally got with prior, who could offer them benefits, who could offer them a good family, who could offer them security, who could offer them long-term security in the form of provisioning, protection, and parental investment. If she can do that herself, then what use does she have for those guys? And that is sort of this new paradigm that we're dealing with now in the 21st century. So it's been my theory, anyways, is that
I think it's fascinating.
They're just following their physical imperatives. They want to get with they want to get with clavicular. They want to get with a guy who's like the looks maxer. They want to get with the guy who's really super hot, right? They want to get with Jason Momoa or Alan Richardson or whatever. And that's so, and they're they're unapologetic about it right now. It's like they don't. Well, you'll hear women say this: "I don't need a man, but I want a man." Who do you want? Jason Momoa. That's what they want.
Yeah. Can I go back for a minute? Because you said something very interesting. It's this idea, though, of the natural patriarchy. I think we've been down this road before in the early 1900s when Marxists from Eastern Europe went to what was not Israel at the time, but has become Israel, and formed the kibbutz. Mm-hmm. And this guy Spiro wrote a fascinating book about how the kibbutz changed over many, many years. The kibbutz was originally set up because women, these socialist women, Marxist women, wanted total equality with men. And so the kibbutz was set up with that premise that women and men would be totally equal. And they set up so that women would go out in the fields and work with men. And then the children were all raised by the community. In fact, it was discouraged to even recognize your own children. The young bathed together, all kinds of things. And then the second generation of women came along, and they decided they didn't like that system. And eventually, it turned out that women wanted to raise the children. They didn't want their children raised by a group. The women didn't like going out into the fields and working and doing the hard labor. They were a farming community. So it's almost like an experiment. The kibbutz evolved, and today the kibbutz is totally different. The men have leadership roles, so we would call that perhaps a patriarchy. And these all naturally form. The women raise the children. Families are you're back to the family unit. I thought that was very interesting in what you were saying, related to the evolution of men and women in society. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I there's a part of your introduction here that I wanted to for the paper I wanted to get into. Sure. It says, you said the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy 2025 cites that defines feminism as an emancipatory political movement aimed at dismantling oppressive structures rooted in gender ideologies and norms, which categorizes individuals into two distinct classes, men and women, with socially prescribed roles that systematically privilege the former and disadvantage.
Yes, the foundation of feminism is that it's based on this idea of patriarchy and suppression by men of women.
So, like I was just saying this before you came on, is where I mark feminism starting. Actually, let me go grab the stats again here. So if you look at this right here, it says the myth of male only voting rights. Okay, contrary to popular belief, the period of human history when men could vote but women couldn't vote was relatively brief. For most of human history, no one could vote, and not men and not women. So if you're looking at, like, say, from 1850 all the way to in the United States 1920, which was when we ratified the 19th Amendment. If you look at that little like light blue area right there on the graph, that was throughout human history, that was the only time where women could not vote and men could vote. And so, and then now you're looking at, the blue area right there, and that's where we are here in modern times right now. But yet the thing is like feminism has been based on the idea of a patriarchy because it has been oppressive of just women. But the thing is like prior to like 1848, like no one could vote. No one had any representation. Much fewer people had. But I think a lot of what what feminism, as far as like by that definition that you're saying in the Encyclopedia of Philosophy, has been based upon is this perception or this collective understanding that everybody seems to agree on, is that men always oppressed women in some way. And the fact of the matter is men oppressed men just as much as they oppressed women as well. So it wasn't just a sexist thing. And I think that one of the reasons
violence too.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Men are much more violent against men.
Yes. And then I think one of the problems that we have right now is, that's the first thing women will say is like, well, men are more violent than women. I'm like, yeah, they are. Yes, you're correct.
Chose us to be that way, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say you selected for us to be that way. As far as patriarchy is concerned, I think it's been sort of like this subjective definition for a while now, rather than what would really be a more conventional definition of it, which is, as we were discussing before, is like a sort of an organic like extension of biological function.
Mm-hmm.
As you were saying before, it's like there's the like when you're saying that historic in our ancestral past, when women were the incubators of the next generation, they needed a man who was strong enough to fight off not only just wild animals but also invading tribes and everything else that would come in and take your shit. Right? Remember, resources, territory that comes with it. But so that informed selection biases in women. We need a guy who has more upper body strength. We need a guy who is built for combat, right? I think it was Steve Stewart Williams was like it's going to be in his next book, how women selected men specifically for combat roles, which now translates into sports and everything else. Sports is just a proxy for war, right? But like for guys who we look at the classic Greco-Roman kind of masculinity where it's a V taper, the guy with big pecs, he's got six-pack abs, visible serrates. We got to like throw that in there, in big biceps and everything like that. Larger shoulders, taller. Women always select for guys who are taller. Why? Because that implies protection. But not only that, it also goes to like the sexual selection side, as I was saying before, is the reason why women select for those guys, or why is that sexy? Like approximately, why is that sexy? Well, muscularity is sexy because on the long-term security side of the equation, you need a guy who can protect. You need a guy who has a capacity for violence. You need a guy who can provide, who is resourceful, who has resources and is generous with those things, with just her, of course. Not
another woman.
They want a dominant male, but as long as he's dominant with everybody else and not her, right? Or the children, because the children are fragile and the woman is fragile. And this, what you were describing before, when it comes to human beings relying on our intelligence, I know it seems like an oxymoron today, but we don't have antlers, we don't have big claws and fangs and everything like that as our biological weapons to keep us going. We have our brains, and we have tool use, and we have guns and ammo and tanks, and all kinds of stuff like that. But we also can solve advanced equations. We can put a man on the moon, and we did put a man on the moon.
Women select for intelligence.
Well, certainly creative intelligence, right? There's an upper threshold for intelligence, but yeah, definitely so. But I say creative intelligence because it's innovation and creative intelligence that translates into long-term security for women. Like, women don't care about your encyclopedic knowledge of like the tanks used in World War II. Okay? They care that you can like come back from adversity and rebuild something. Like if you built a nice town and it looks great and a tornado rips through it, she wants to marry the guy who can rebuild that town again. Like, so that there's
and perhaps subconsciously she sees the correlation between intelligence and making money. There's a huge correlation,
which translates to resources.
Right?
Yeah. But the idea of how what that means is that you've got to have a big brain, and the big brain requires a lot of synapses or a lot of it requires a lot of brain matter, right? How do you get that out of the woman before she can't, right? Until she's unable to. Well, the child has to come out. Technically, human babies are born premature because they're not able to get up and feed themselves and fight and run away like a horse, for example. A horse is born 30 minutes later, it can run, right?
Yep.
Babies need at least anywhere from 7 to 12 to 14 years before they're actually, able to fend for themselves or even feed themselves, for that matter. And so therefore there needs to be a mother who is, needs to be nurturing. You have one of the humans has to be the nurturer, has to be the one that looks after the kids. And, for forever, it's been women. They've been the nurturers. And so those characteristics are what men tend to find attractive in females, because that means their children are going to be the ones that carry on their DNA into the next generations, right? And so that's they want a woman with a hips to waist ratio. They want a woman with big tits because they can feed the babies. So there's like this, this classic kind of like, there are objective beauty standards. They vary from culture to culture, but they pretty much stay the same when it comes to body habitus, for sure. And so what happens is, and a lot of guys get into trouble when I get into trouble when I say this, is a lot of guys in the red pill community or the manosphere want to say, like, you got to treat women like they're children. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily
get you in trouble.
That will get you in trouble. But I can say I understand the sentiment. I understand why you say that, because you have to protect them. You have to protect the children. You have to protect women by order of degree, to the same degree that you would with a child. It doesn't mean that women are actually children. It just means there's this instinctive need to want to protect that child or that woman in the same way that you would want to protect very fragile children. Because if you can't protect the woman, then you have to transfer some of the concern over children onto the vulnerable woman as well. So there's a vulnerable woman and the very fragile, vulnerable child. And so you got to have a guy who can kick ass, who has a capacity for violence, has, physical prowess, has intelligence, is invested parentally, and everything else that we've talked about up to this point. All of these things, man, all of this, and I don't claim to be like Steve Stewart Williams. I don't have a doctorate in evolutionary psychology.
No, but you're well read on it.
But if I can figure this shit out, I've got 6 books under my name. If I can figure this shit out without having that degree, like, why is it so difficult for other guys, for other people to sort of follow on with this stuff? And I understand it's very, like, socially speaking right now, like for me to say, men treat women like they're children. And I don't mean that like that's what should be, but I think that instinctually that's the way it is. But even me relating that, everybody takes that the wrong way. Or you don't have a doctorate in evolutionary psychology. What do you know? Right? Well, just the fact that we're having this conversation right now will get us in trouble.
Yeah,
like,
I'm already in trouble. So
I know you've been in trouble.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Got to speak out, I think.
Yeah.
Sexual selection, I'm glad you brought it up, because it is everywhere. And we have size differences with women, partly because women have been choosing size and partly because males compete against each other. So kind of an interesting dichotomy there.
Yeah. And again, it's well, I forget who was the guy that said this. Is like, you don't like, ancestrally speaking or historically speaking, you don't see groups of women banding together to go into other tribes and kill off all the women folk and take all the men back to their tribe and integrate them back into their tribe. There's a reason. Yeah. Because there are fundamental functional differences between men and women.
And feminists, they don't want to think about that. They don't want to understand. I think the biggest problem we have right now is that women don't see nature and reality. There's something missing there. I don't know exactly what it is. But they want to sort of deny that there's that competition out there. And nature is so competitive. If you go back to hunter-gatherer society, tribes were fighting each other all the time.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And men would go in, and the winners, killed the men and took the women.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, and the reason I brought this up is you will see that in Dr. Hector Garcia's book, Alpha God. I mean, even the Old Testament, God said, "Go in, kill all those motherfuckers, take their women as spoils of war," and that's so saith the Lord, right?
Alexander was thought to be a good guy because he left the men in a few tribes to
stick around. Yeah, so they can fight for him later. Yeah, I can't kill all of them. Yeah. But I think that like, getting back to your point is like, why does like when I was talking about emotionalism, I know why egalitarianism is appealing to women, because it's part of the female psyche. There's strength in numbers. If you're the vulnerable sex, it makes sense that you would want to gather around as many women as you possibly could, nurture, because you can, like, it's better to be in a co-op to raise kids and to protect yourselves while the men are out either fighting or they're bringing meat back to the tribe, right? It makes better sense for women to gather into collectives. And so that seems like the most obvious, most pragmatic way to organize society. So when women are afforded social power, that's what they default to. Now, the other thing is this is like you were saying before, the blank slate. So why is it that there's such a refusal to accept innate biological differences between men and women? And I think a lot of that goes back to sort of Enlightenment thinkers. Like if you look at the Enlightenment thinkers that have been inspirational to even the United States Constitution, right? Every man was born equal, right? We all have inherent rights. Well, the problem is inherent rights have to be enforced by somebody. And it's usually violent men that have to enforce those rights. So whenever I get into, and I know Andrew Wilson has talked about this as well, but like when you get into this discussion with women and they talk about, well, we need to fight we don't have the same rights as men, which is bullshit. But when you ask women, well, who's going to enforce those rights? It's not going to be other women. They don't understand. They don't even understand the fundaments of what a right is, or how we even came to the idea of what a right could or couldn't be. And that's really comes back to the Enlightenment era thinking. And so when you look at that, all of that Enlightenment era thinking, when it comes to human rights, that's based on the blank slate. It's based on the idea that everybody is born a blank slate, and from there you make with it whatever you do,
Sure.
or the quality of your character, right? As Martin Luther King was saying, it's not about your skin color; it's about the quality of your character. And while I think that has merit, it's also about your genetics. It's also about the 4 laws of genetic behaviorism as well. And so when you throw that out there and you make that deterministic, I think, like if I quote the 4 laws of genetic behaviorism, I get it from both sides. I'll get it from the liberal left who want to stick to the blank slate, and then I'll get it from the right as well, because it sounds too deterministic. It sounds like you don't have any free will. And it's like, well, it's neither one.
Yeah, I hate it too. I see that all the time, and it's just not true. I mean, we're not trying to say that you should be that way. We're just saying that you have characteristics of that because of evolution.
And I think that's really, maybe this answers your question, right? Like, why is it that there is such a dependency on the blank slate? Why is it that there's this inability, this refusal to accept an objective human nature? And I think it goes back to what you just said. It's about should. Yeah, okay, it is, but should it really be that way? It's the same thing it's the same difference between objective truth and like subjective truth, right? Mm-hmm. So there's the truth, and then there's your truth. Like you'll see this in Nike commercials, right? Yeah. Like, live in your truth, girl, right? It's like, no, there is the truth. That's all there is. It's like, what is objectively true? And then from there we can decide what best practices are. If we
I certainly agree with that.
You can't decide on what is objectively true, or what is objectively true is all based on subjectiveness. Like I don't know if you saw this, maybe you did. It was Hockley, who was going up against this doctor. It was a senatorial inquiry, and there's this woman who was there. Her name was Dr. Verma, I think it was, and he was basically saying, like, because they were trying to get down to like objective truths. So in the medical community, because she was a medical doctor, and he basically asked her point blank. He says, "Do you think that that men can get pregnant?"
Oh, I did see that.
And she
hemmed around. Oh my god,
like an eel in the weeds.
Yes.
And it's like, and she basically just filled.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah, she just ran out the clock.
Yep.
And so, but I thought, I did it was about 2 weeks ago. I did a whole section on that on this show, and I'm like, the reason why she's not giving you that objective answer is because if she does, she has to accept that an objective truth. She has to accept that a biological male is incapable of becoming pregnant. But what should be true, what she thinks should be in that world, in that reality, is, well, based on the blank slate, obviously, but gender identity is all based on subjective. There's no factual, evolutionary, biological, evo bio. There's no basis for that belief, even for what should be. Like it's an objective impossibility, but in a subjective sense, she thinks that it should be possible, and that's why she was unable to say yes or no.
Well, I think it harkens back to the, there's a whole group of sociologists that are relativists, and they get into this nonsense. And, I've heard people say, well, sex is socially constructed. Well, how the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
So I also think, just getting to the trans movement, I think the reason that feminists haven't gone out and spoken out against this movement is because they want men and women to be treated equally, I think. And when men are trying to become women, that seems to support. Otherwise, it seems very strange that women would allow this notion that men can be women and women can be men.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Is it getting dark in here? Or is it just me?
We're getting yeah. I'll cover for you. Actually, you know what? While he does that, I'm going to go get to these super chats right quick here. So the Ducati will kill me fast enough. So it's a Porsche or the Vet. Okay, good. Thanks. I'm glad you finally figured that out for yourself. Let me get these other ones here real fast. Andrew Wilson on Joe Rogan Experience thoughts. My $2 Canadian dollar for version of this is it was 3.5 hours of Andrew Wilson talking about politics primarily, and which was I'm glad he did, but I'm a little bit disappointed because I was kind of hoping he was going to go into gender, but he never really got there. And it was I kept waiting. I go, maybe next hour, and it didn't. I wanted more. Put it that way. I was left wanting more, but maybe that wasn't gonna happen. I don't know if that's by design or whatever, but it is what it is. Let's see. If payment is universal, why shame passport bros? I'm not shaming passport bros. God, please, if that's your methodology, go right ahead. If you can make it, passport bros, if you can make it work, more power to you, man. Oh man, Fresh. Hold on. Fresh hooked me up. Here we go. Thank you, Fresh. I had lunch with Fresh on Thursday, actually, at GA. It was cool. We had a great conversation. I brought the wife, too. It was great. Well, yeah. First time I met my wife. And then this.
It means Korea.
Oh, it does?
During the Korea
you
section,
looked it up? Okay, yeah. This is Korean, 10,000 Korean won.
Yep. Which is about $6.89.
$6.89.
So.
You know what? Thank you, Korean friend. Go buy my book in Korean. And then let's see. Here's my tip for the two professors. Thanks for the awesome show. You are welcome, my friend. Awesome for you. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, you can bring it back. Yeah. Okay. So, good. Much more light now. So I was just going to say is like, I think that a lot of the, I don't think we're going to make any progress in this quote unquote gender divide. Like I was saying before, especially the political divide right now. And here's why I would say that is because there's a fundamental misunderstanding between men and women when it comes to what should be and what is. And so when you look at, where'd it go? When you look at this difference between the political differences between men and women, this is an ideological difference. You have to remember. Okay. So this is not just like, oh, she's going to vote for Kamala instead of Trump. Yeah, that's part of it for sure. But it's an ideological, it's a belief set under, gulf between the two of them. So when we're sorry, that's not the right one. So when we're looking at the distance between those two, I think one of the things I was saying before is like when you have the female experience that is set as the normative and men really haven't moved all that much, it seems like men are the ones that have been radicalized and not women that are the ones that have been radicalized. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that the female experience is should be the normative experience. And so everybody, like men should be more like women. Men should identify more like women. And what's that based on? Based on the blank slate, because men should be malleable enough to change them, to go to therapy, and to change themselves enough or have the will to change themselves enough to be more like us, because we're the normal ones. We're the correct ones. Come over to our side, be more like us. And then feminism would be would make for such a great society if we could just get men to cooperate.
That's the crux of the argument, isn't it?
If we can they're just trying to make cooperate. Yes, and it's so you have this. Crazy. So you have this distance between the two of us, and it just honestly, I think it's a distance between what women believe, because women believe in shoulds. This is the way it should be. One of the things I kind of wanted to get into was speaking of shoulds.
So many guys get beaten up over that, though.
Yeah.
Wife's telling them, you need to be more like this, or I'm going to leave you. Kind of stuff.
Well, that's like I was saying before. Like men and women process emotions, like physiologically process emotions differently. So women need some sort of they need a social condition or a social convention for that to explain that. So now we have men are just emotionally retarded. And I mean that in the clinical sense, right? Men need to go to therapy more. You didn't cry at the end of Titanic, so therefore you need therapy. Therefore you need to work on yourself, right? you're not emotionally intelligent.
You don't talk to me enough.
And emotional intelligence is a cope. It's a bullshit pseudoscience that was created to explain the physiological differences in emotional interpretation between men and women. Because if women are the standard, if women's experience, if women's truth is they're more emotional and they're more in touch with their emotions, and men can't be, that if I say, well, it's biological, that kills the conversation right there. But if they believe that it's subjective, it's something that should be, it's like,
And
well,
they can change you.
then they can change you and they can drag you this way. So like when I say this, I've said, I just told you a minute ago, like when I say that, for women, it's instinct, emotion, and reason. Emotion is prioritized before reason. Women always say, well, not the men I know, they're all emotional. Like, well, make up your mind. Do they have emotional intelligence and they're expressing their emotion, or they don't? Like, what is it? Well, it's selective for whatever they want it to be regarding whatever context they want it to be in. But you can also look at this in terms of how men and women communicate, right? So women tend to communicate based on feelings. They tend to communicate based on context. How did the conversation make them feel? Women women. By the way, I'm going to compliment women, give them a good innate, this is part of females' innate nature, is they're better at communication. They're better at, and why wouldn't they be, right? They're the vulnerable sex. They need to nurture. They need to know what the other women in the community are feeling. And are they gossiping? Are they, am I going to get kicked out? Am I going to be ostracized from the group? Because that might be life or death, right? So it was in women's biological evolutionary best interest to be better communicators when it came to body language, when it came to vocal intonations, when it came to like facial expressions. Women will notice your shoes before they'll notice your appearance, right? They'll notice your presence. They'll notice your attitude, your body language, your what you're wearing. All of those are communication cues that women are picking up on all the time. So really, their communication styles are based on context, right? On how did the communication make them feel? Not about the information so much. That's kind of, I'm not to say that's not important. It is. It's just secondary to the feelings and the emotions that were generated during that conversation. That's why women will go and say, hey, let's catch up at Starbucks, right? Mm-hmm. And communicate straight across to each other and look each other in the face. And how's the baby? How's the kids? How's your husband? Da, da, da. They enjoy the act of communicating. Men communicate in an overt fashion. They don't communicate in a covert fashion. It's more of a information based. So it's content based. Like you and I right now, we're having a conversation that is based on information. We're relating information to each other and the audience right now, right? Yep. So it's primarily, and so I can see you right now, but if like we're sitting at a bar or like we're meeting, where men tend to face outward when they're communicating as opposed to looking at each other in the eyes, right? And people say, well, that's because, men are being wary of, hostilities and combat, like confrontation and stuff. And there might be a kernel of truth to that. But it's also men are more concerned with things and women are more concerned with people, right? That's Dr. Steven Pinker, right? That's his studies.
Well, that's a major theme in evolutionary psychology, basically.
Yeah. So the communication styles are different. And I would argue that the reason why men tend to focus on information and content and women focus on the context and the feelings, like when we talk about we live in the feels before reals generation right now, that's because the operative correct way of interpreting society is through a female lens. We're supposed to tell me how you feel before you tell me how you're going to solve the problem. Before you get to rationality and reason, let's go through feeling first. And then men say, no, give me the data, give me the information, let me solve the problem, and then we'll figure out how we felt about that. And that's reflected in the way that men and women communicate right now.
So true.
And so the communication styles is evidence of how men and women process information differently. The problem that you run into is that women will say, this is how it should be, because should is based in feels. Men say, this is how it is, not how it should be. This is how it is, because here's the data that shows how it is, right?
Well, our brain.
That's how you get into trouble with your paper, because you're saying, this is what is. And people go, no. He's actually a geologist, or he has no, don't listen to this guy. But what is he saying that's not true? Let's break down, what is the empirical truth of his debate? There's no empirical truth. It's not about that. It's all about, you made women feel bad. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Welcome to my world.
But there are differences between men and women's brains and how they take the world in. Yeah. So my point is, it's not just behavior. It's, it's hardwired in the brain.
Yeah. I think that, let's see, one of the things that I remember when it was Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh went on Dr. Phil one time. Mm-hmm. He was on there, and it was like, there's two transgender guys, or they're the bearded ladies, right? They're guys with beards with makeup on and stuff like that. And then there's two guys there, and then there was a feminist professor at some college or something like that. And she was a woman. It was a woman, and so he was basically asking you, because he had that movie, what is a woman, right? Mm-hmm. He was trying to basically, what is a woman is, give me an objective, definite. He's using male communication form, right? Give me an objective definition of what a woman is. Or like Senator Hawley, can men get pregnant? I want an objective truth. Tell me what we're trying to get to the truth here, right? And even on Dr. Phil, the feminist professor, of course, is, well, why are you so obsessed with what a woman is, and try to find an emotional reframe of who hurt you.
Typical way to respond.
But the problem is it's fundamentally based on what should or shouldn't be. And that's based on the feels. That's based on female communication dynamic. And so when I think one of the things that, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you've covered this already, but I think one of the greatest failings of intersectional feminism is this idea that human sexuality is separate from gender identity. And I think that if you look at things, I think this is one of the reasons why feminists hate evolutionary psychology, and they hate evolutionary biology, and they want to control the narrative, especially in academia, is because it challenges the idea that there is a separation between your biological sex and how that influences your gender identity. So, for instance, if you have a lot of serum testosterone, that's going to, give you proclivities, let's just say, to act out and to be more masculine in gender, right? And masculine in your understanding, right? So essentially, from a biological EvoBio and EvoPsych perspective, and from the 4 laws of genetic behaviorism, right? Genes in biology are upstream from gender identity. So you don't even know what a male or a female is until you can decide biologically what is it, what are the hormones, what are the endocrine system, what is the brain wiring, what is all the biological hardware doing that influences who you think you are as a man or a woman. Can you get pregnant? No, you can't. You're a man. That's it, right? But they want to deal in what should be. They want to say, yeah, well, a man should be able to get pregnant. A guy who calls himself a man should feel like he should be able to get pregnant. And I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's psychosis at this point. It's like we're all playing along with, pandering to this idea that it should be that guys could get pregnant, or we need to put tampons in the male bathrooms.
Yeah, that's got to be.
They might want to feel like, I don't know what they're going to do with it, but hey, I feel better because there's tampons here, and it makes me.
We've lost our minds.
Gender affirming, yeah.
Yes.
And so we've taken it to the most absurd levels, and the problem is, I think, anyways, is that when we get to you were just discussing the trans situation right now, a trans identity is just like the end of the line. It's the most it's the logical absurd extreme. And the problem is when you convince enough people that men should be able to identify as women and compete in female only sports, now you're dealing with objective, empirical, biological realities and what should be. And what feels right. And so you probably saw this in the Olympics. It was the last Olympics where there's the female presenter boxer who was just breaking jaws.
Oh my gosh.
And and the girls would just say, I'm not gonna fight this guy. Even in fencing, like one of the female fencers said, I'm not gonna fence this man because this is a male. He's gonna whip my ass.
Down on one knee. Yeah.
And you always notice it's always the men pretending to be women, not women pretending to be men in the men's sports. That doesn't happen at all. But like it's guys who are gender, swapped, I guess.
But it's because they can win in women's sports.
Yeah. But what you're doing is you are confronting intersectional feminism, your intersectional gender identity understanding, because you believe that we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because we prioritize feelings before facts. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So we got to let that boxer into the Olympics so he can break the jaws of all the women that are in there. And so now you have it was just in I think it was, within the center, some of these, some states are outlawing or banning biological men in women's sports right now, and just losing their minds over this.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is pandering to what should be versus what is. And so you have empirical reality literally smashing into emotionalism, because we emotionally want to feel like, from a woke perspective, we want to feel like the male should be able to equitably be able to compete in the female sport. And the fact of the matter is it's all bullshit. You remember, Kyle, you remember Zuby, my friend Zuby?
Yes.
Zuby actually holds the world's record in deadlifting for female deadlifting.
Ooh,
because he went into this competition.
Yeah.
He identified it. He did this, of course, as a stunt. He identified as a woman, goes in, breaks the stand, like very easily breaks the set world record for female deadlifting, and then promptly changes his sex back to male as soon as he's done. Right? He holds that record. He did that as just to sort of prove a point. He didn't hurt anybody as a result of that. But yeah, he holds that title, and it just kind of highlights the ridiculousness of everything. But again, it's like what should be and what actually is. So.
Well, another aspect of all this is the fluidity. You have male and female on the ends, and then feminists now are claiming there's everything in between. That just doesn't hold up. There are some diseases, which, and I don't know if you want to call them diseases, but there are genetic problems that cause about 0.16% of the population to fit out there on that spectrum. So, we're pretty much it's bi. It's not, it's bimodal. It's not everything in between, so to speak.
So
I just want to emphasize that.
That's fine. I'm still curious, because I think that a lot from a sociological perspective, you challenged the ideological in this paper, anyways. You challenged the ideological underpinnings of feminism with empiricism. And that's kind of like what I'm kind of trying to bring this full circle.
You are.
So the idea is feminism is based on feels. It's based on female communication styles. It's based on how women interpret instinct, emotion, and reason. It's the biological underpinnings, right? But it's still this is the way we hope things could be. We want women's literature and women's fantasies is all about what should be. It's not about what actually is. Right? That's why
you see it in their literature too. You go out there in the literature, it's about who's got the best idea, and then everybody, latches on to the most popular idea, and that becomes, dogma.
Yeah. That's fine.
Nobody gets together and says, okay, these are the facts, and this is what, the evidence is telling us. And until I started realizing that men and women were different, I thought we had lost our minds. But, now I'm beginning to realize that this is, just human nature to some extent.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. I think a lot of this is sort of crept up, or not crept up. It's actually happened pretty quickly when you think about it, because when you look at the advent of hormonal birth control and just how quickly we've sort of abdicated from a patriarchal, for lack of a better term, a male-centric form of organizing societies to making the female experience the one that is the correct experience. When you look how quickly that happened, it's really like what does a society look like? A society by women for women look like? It's not matriarchy. It's what we have now, and it's again, like I said, it's based on what should be the shoulds, on subjective reality, subjective truths, like individual truths, as opposed to like objective what actually is true. And
they hand it to them though; they've done a great job.
Yeah, well, and still are right now.
Yeah,
and so just having conversations like that. That's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to get you on, because I think your paper is sort of like emblematic of that that conflict between emotionalism and empiricism, because feminism as an ideology, you want to talk about feminism. I always say the red pill is a praxeology. It's not a philosophy. It's not a movement. It's not an ideology, whatever. Feminism most definitely is. So, and it's based on ideological, like what should be, how we would like to change things according to what we think should be. And when that doesn't align with empirical truth, that's when you get the boxer in the Olympics breaking the jaws of women. And so essentially, like what you're looking at right here with your paper is an extension of the boxer breaking the jaws of women here, because it challenges that idea that it feels before reals, emotion before empiricism.
Yeah, it was too easy. It was too easy,
and that's why you get the pushback. And then that's why that's the first thing I asked you is like, has this paper been pushed down a memory hole already? I mean, you published it at the end of September, and they were already criticizing you by the end of December. And I'm wondering if it hasn't been sort of like I don't know, ratioed and ignored.
Definitely being ignored a lot. I mean, I don't get referenced at all, and that's what they've been doing with all evolutionary psychology. They, if any paper in evolutionary psychology is almost taken as ignore.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing why you're like, when you hit me up and you sent me the link to your paper and I started getting through it, the one reason I wanted to get you on was because, like, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but as far as I know, this has been like the first instance that I can think of where you've kind of like almost universally or like on a at scale has challenged feminism with evolutionary psychology. Usually it's when I look at, like, myself included, or my co-host on Access Vegas, Mike Sartain, he's a big fan of Dr. David Buss. He'll cite his work, but it's usually on individual like topics, individual parts of, like, if a woman says, well, how come guys always do this? Well, according to Dr. David Buss, and here's the the studies show this, right? But your paper was the first time I ever saw anyone saying feminism is bullshit, and here's why. Because here's the data, here's the like evolutionary psychology. You don't say, well, the red pill's right, or this is right, or this is wrong. It's just like the finger is pointing at feminism as strictly as ideology it's not based on any kind of.
That's because I'm a scientist, I think. Yeah. I'm not saying David isn't. David has a paper out, something similar to that, but it's buried in a book as a chapter somewhere. Mm-hmm. And he kind of tries to take the middle road and not offend anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that.
I'm talking about David Buss.
Buss, yes. I've been critical of him for a while now.
Yeah, why is that? I like David for his research.
So Dr. David Buss, right up until about 2019, he was the gold standard.
Oh, yeah.
Gold, and to an extent, I think he still is for that.
Yeah,
work.
I agree. Yeah.
I think he kind of fell off when he did when he wrote Men Behaving Badly, because that seemed like it was just sort of it was a peace offering, or if it was pandering to.
He has pandered. I agree.
What's going on? And I don't think people really realize that he also was endorsing a dating site that was based on his stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it never took off. He just had pre-orders. He had pre-registrations, and nothing ever happened as a result of it. But you had Andrew Huberman on board. You had Alex Hormozi on board. You had all these really big names that were on board, and nothing ever happened to it. And I think that the book was actually supposed to be a primer for that dating course, but it never happened. And yeah, I got into a lot of trouble for like being critical of David Buss, because I said, hey man, David Buss sold out. This is how he's selling out right here. And it's a shame because he doesn't need to sell out. He's 70 years old. He's been doing this forever and he doesn't have to do this, but he's still here. He is still doing it.
I think he likes to keep the peace. That's my only interpretation.
I think so too. And you haven't heard too much from him recently. So I don't know what his deal.
Well, he came out with a new edition of his book last year.
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
But I didn't see many changes.
Was it the
his textbook, Evolutionary?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Which, I mean, like I said, there's like he's been the gold standard for a long time. And like I said, I still quote him, and I know Mike still quotes him. But when you use that kind of data and when you use those statistics, it's usually we're using it on a by instance basis. Like if women want to say, well, here's why, here's why women do this thing. And then if I say, well, here's the data, here's the stats, here's the research that's been done, this is why you're wrong, right? It's just this one issue done, one and done, right? Whereas like what you're doing with this paper saying all of feminism is pretty much based on nonsense from an empirical scientific perspective, according to evolutionary psychology, evolutionary biology.
It's not just on that. I could have gone further. I mean, you go out there and you look at these papers. Well, it's just, as a scientist, you just wonder how are they getting these things? Well, I know how they're getting them published, but how can you have journals that publish, feelings?
I was gonna say, exactly. So I would encourage anybody to. I put it in the. I think I put it in the chat already, but it's called Evolutionary. Where does it go? Mark J. DeFont. It's Evolutionary Psychology and the Crisis of Empirical Rigor in Feminist Studies. I'll put it in the description for this video so everybody can see it. But
okay, thank you.
Been really, really good, man. It's good. Thank you for
having me. Really appreciate it. It's great.
Enjoy the conversation. I'll have it back on some point. It was good.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
You take care.
All right, man. I'll see you later. Thanks, Mark. All right.
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Dupont. So I like having the, God damn it. Isn't it great to have like fucking meat and potatoes finally?
Right.
Isn't it fun? So where else? Tell me, where else do you get fucking content like this? People go, why do you have that old guy on? It's so boring. No, dude. I mean, this is, I don't think people really understand the impact of that, of the aggregate of his work on this. And of course, that's what first thing I asked him is why, is this going down a memory hole? And the answer is yes, it's gone down a memory hole, because it challenges not just scientific aspects of feminism, but like the ideological basis of it. And as I was saying before, like when I was saying, when we were looking at, when I was telling you that there's no such thing as waves of feminism, feminism has always been the same thing. It's always been, I mean, I'll tell you it's a hate movement, but let's take the hate word out of it for a moment. It's always been based on gender supremacism. And people say, well, wasn't patriarchy gender, supremacism? No. Androcentrism probably would be, but patriarchy was meant to be responsive. Patriarchy as a way of organizing society is a much more balanced way of organizing society than feminism is. Feminism is definitely, patriarchy at the very least is based on biological realities. Men are stronger than women. Men have different priorities than women. Men prioritize reason before emotion, right? Doing the right thing where just doesn't matter how you, what is it? Courage is not about like how you feel about it. It's getting the job done that that needs to get done. Right? Oh, but how did it make you feel? Talk about your feelings.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yes. Talk about your feelings. How come guys don't talk about your feelings? Or like, why can't men be vulnerable? It's like, bitch, you can't even watch me on the couch for 20 fucking minutes without feeling anxiety for that. Like, well, I'm feeling kind of tired. I think I'm going to sit on the couch for a little bit. Oh my God, what a lazy fuck. Like they don't want to see you vulnerable. They can't even stand you being on the couch for 20 minutes. Like women, like I didn't get into this with him because there wasn't really any point, but like, well, I mean, the operative of today's show, today's theme anyways, is that women are getting to the point where they really kind of hate men. And Cappy, God, I wish I had Aaron for this too. Aaron, in his book, The Menu, The premise of The Menu, his book, The Menu, is that women basically don't like men anymore. Not maybe not hate, but they don't like men. They don't have any use for guys. And it goes back to what I said, on the Dr. Phil show, is that men have effectively become superfluous in this gynocentric social order. They're nice to have around. He's got a big dick and he looks like he's fun in bed. Yeah, okay, come on over for a night, right? Can you change the oil in my car and do snow removal, and build me some cabinets and take the trash out for me? Yeah, okay, I might keep him around, right? But they're not. Women will say, do we need men? How many different videos? Hell, how many videos on what is it? It's Complicated, where they go out on they go out here to Fremont and they'll ask women, do we need men? No. Do we need men? Fuck you. Do we need men? Fuck no. Then he asks the guys, do we need women? Oh, yeah, of course we do. What are you talking about? Yeah, we need women. Hot ones. Yeah. Yeah. Do we need women? Yes. And you will hear men overwhelmingly say that we need women. And you will hear women's overwhelming say, and not just, no, we don't need men, but fuck men. It's like this, it's like that's the expected answer. Oh, there's a camera on me and you're asking me this question. Fuck men. That's what you're supposed to say, Gen Z girl. And we wonder why no one's having sex. And we can't figure out why this generation just doesn't want to get their dick sucked. Whatever. I don't know. But yeah, the Menu is a fucking great read, by the way. Thank you for popping that in there, Siege. Yeah, the Menu is an awesome read, but because it goes into what's still on the menu for men, what's still on the menu for women. That's essentially the euphemism, right? And how to live in a society where both sexes have no use for each other, right? There's too many guys. I will have him on again. Don't worry. Shit, he's here. Don't worry. We'll have Eric Clary. We'll definitely come on this show again. He'll hit me up and want to be on this show. He was on Rule 0 2 weeks ago. I tried to get him on this Saturday. I am going to be hosting Rule 0 on Saturday of next week. I had Nuke do it because I just kind of wasn't feeling good. I've had been running a low fever for past 2 or 3 days. I'm okay. Don't worry. It's nothing. I don't think I'm septic, but yeah, I think I got a little bit of a fever. I got a little sick after Access Vegas because I think I was out of my germ belt with all these. You know who it was? It's probably Fresh. Fresh brought that shit here from Miami, and I got a little sick.
He flew in the pathogen.
I'm just getting over it now. I wasn't even sure I was going to come in today, but I kind of wanted to for Mark. So, but anyways, yeah. So I wanted to. I had some other videos I really wanted to dig into today, but I got a little carried away with Mark. But I think Mark's work is kind of groundbreaking in the sense that it aggregates a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about in the Red Pill. I don't think he's not Red Pill. He wouldn't call himself Red Pill, but he aggregates enough of the stuff we've been talking about for a long time. And then he challenged feminism with that aggregate of data. And man, let me tell you something. Women lose their minds on that shit, man. The criticism he's getting, it's just amazing to me. But so anyways, I might have him on again at some point, but the sort of the take home message for today is when I was talking about that one, was it the Steve Bartlett clip that I was showing you, just the amount of vitriol that comes out after that. It's almost as if women not only feel offended, but they feel like they have to defend their hatred. There has to be some sort of for whatever reason, there has to be some sort of reason to defend that. So a lot of the times when I was looking at these, when she was the psychologist who was making these statements and saying something like, men need a purpose. She didn't say anything about this, but she's like, well, so men need a purpose. Women are the only purpose that men have. For a lot of guys, yeah, but that's not what she said. She was saying men are definitely purposeless now. If you've read my, which one was? Oh, is my book. Religion. In the end chapters, I was saying one of the reasons why guys are sort of we have this Lost Boys generation, Jordan Peterson called them the Lost Boys generation. One of the reasons we don't have that anymore is because we don't have those frontiers. We don't have anything new to explore. We've already figured out shit, right? There's no new exploration for guys, and guys need that. Guys thrive off of that. That's why when she's saying, men will go out and they would hunt. You can still go out and hunt. Yeah, and if I post it on fucking Instagram, you're like, why did you kill that poor animal? It's like that's not it though. That's just a way of saying that there's no new frontiers for guys. There's nothing new for guys to explore. And I think that a lot of the times, when women say that, guys are so low quality these days, there's no high value men, or the high value men that they want to get with, like they're all players, because they can be. But the reason why is because most men don't have that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. They don't have that hunter that killer instinct that they need to be a good hunter. They don't have that exploration. They're not looking outside themselves anymore. I have a really great, I think anyways, I have this really great essay, and forget the name of it at the top, but I think it's called Introspection or something like that. But it shows the lead picture is what I was remembering, is the lead picture of this is there's a man and a woman, and they're like kind of laying down on a blanket somewhere. They're like under a tree, and they both have cameras. And the woman is laying down, and she's got the camera, and it's facing her, and she's trying to take like a selfie or a picture with the camera. And then the guy is sitting upright next to her, and he's got the camera, and he's facing outward at the world. And I thought that was just one of the best metaphors of the differences between men and women. Women tend to look inward. Men tend to look outward. In a natural state, tend to look outward. Men are more interested in things. Women are more interested in people. And the most interesting person is themselves, right? So that's why the camera faces inward and faces the chick who's taking the selfies, whereas the guy is taking pictures of what's out there, what's beyond that horizon, what's over that river. Let's build a bridge so we can go. Like what's the frontier that I can go explore with this camera, right? So it's looking outward at the world, whereas women are looking inward at themselves, or looking at the inside. The problem is now men are starting to turn the camera inside, and they're starting to look at themselves. And when they do that, they look and act more like women. And women go, how come there's no high quality men? They're all clavicular. Like
they're all metro.
They're all metro. Yes. They're acting more like women. Well, it's because those are the guys you created. Like women will go like, oh, how come there's no, all you guys are just jerking off in your mom's basement and you're all incels and da da da. I'm like, these are the men you created. Like, you get the men you deserve. These are the men feminism created. Blame yourself. Don't blame men for these, because you created the environmental conditions over the course of 4 generations to create just exactly that motherfucker. That guy who you get pissed off at because he's on the couch for 20 minutes. That guy. That's the guy you created, or your mom created, or your grandmother created, your boomer great grandmother created. I don't know, right? Since the time of the sexual revolution, that's what it's all led up to. 25 years into the 21st century, that's where we're at right now. And no, men did not create these women. These women created themselves. They put themselves in it, because never in the course of human history has there been a time where women have had more social power, more economic power, more political power. Don't give me, I love it when people go, I love this shit. When people go, well, Rollo, the US Congress is still not 50-50 men and women. It's like more like 2/3 men and 1/3 women, or so. I don't know what the actual demographics are. Okay. Well, the Senate is still not, it's not 50-50 women. I'm like, well, if gender is a social construct, why would that matter? Why would it matter what they are, right? Elect women. Well, if gender is a social construct, then who cares, right? That's fine. And when you throw that on them, then they lose their minds. But that doesn't matter. As I was saying on the last show, it's like, look at your local community, like your commission. Look who's your mayor. Male or female? Who's on the county? Who's on the board of directors? Who's on the city council? Who's on your what is the consistency? What is the male to female ratio for your state senate? How many governors are female and how many governors are male? right? The state governors. And then how many state senators, depending on how the state is organized, how many, state Congress people, how many state, because a lot of people just get they're just like microcosms of the federal government. What's that demographic? How many women are in psychology? How many women are in the medical profession? How many women are in the legal profession? How many women are in raw sewage? How many women are electricians? How many women are construction workers? How many women work on oil rigs in the Gulf of America? Like, there's some definite gender divides between occupations, but I would argue that the ones with the most, the ones who have the more control over a societal narrative, you will see by and large, there are way more women that are making decisions for you on a social scale than that would matter, more than offset there not being 50% females in Congress or 50% Senate, or we still don't have a female president, right? Don't worry, that'll probably change pretty soon. It'll probably be a conservative female. I don't think there'll be I don't think you're not going to get AOC. Sorry, that's not going to happen. AOC will not be president unless Gavin Newsom goes in and she's the vice president and he dies. And even then she won't get elected. It will probably be like Tulsi Gabbard. I would expect Tulsi Gabbard to win the first female presidency. Then it would be AOC. And I'm not saying that's a good thing either, but it is what it is. Women have far more political power, social power, which is actually probably more, I would say probably more prominent than political power. So when I'm looking at what's going on in other countries, like I saw this one video, I posted this on my Twitter. It's one video of this woman. I guess she is the prime minister of Spain right now. And she's talking about how she's going to open all the borders and how human beings there's a human right to colonize or to populate all of Europe. And she's essentially it's just open borders for everyone. Everyone, like you're a troglodyte if you don't believe in this shit. Is that what's her name?
It had to be from 2011, Maria.
No,
Teresa?
it was something else. It's on my my Twitter feed here. Hang on.
Be from Denmark or Italy.
No, Denmark is like nothing but a feminist country. What is this chick's name? Oh, there it is. Okay, here it is. I'll just throw this on here real quick. Oh, I know. Okay, so it's leftist Spanish MEP. What's the MEP? I don't know what MEP means. Leftist Spanish MEP. And hold on. Just so people know I'm not talking out of my ass. Because I mentioned it and now I have to put it on. There it is. This chick right here.
Quiero pedir a las personas migrantes y racializadas que por favor no nos dejen solas con tanto facha. Y claro que sí queremos que voten. Claro que sí. Hemos conseguido papeles, regularización ya. Y ahora vamos a por la nacionalidad o a cambiar la ley para que puedan votar, por supuesto. Ojalá, teoría del reemplazo, ojalá podamos barrer de fachas y de racistas este país con gente migrante, con gente trabajadora. Claro que yo quiero que haya reemplazo de fachas, reemplazo de racistas, reemplazo de vividores y que lo podamos hacer con la gente trabajadora de este país, tenga el color de la piel que tenga, sea china, negra, marrona, con todas compañeras las gentes trabajadoras de este país. Quiero pedirles a las...
There you go. Whoever this chick is. I hope for a replacement theory. I hope we can sweep this country of fascists and racists with immigrants. You see this more and more, even France's far left leaders, Mélenchon, post that he wants a replacement as well. There you go. So when we're whenever I'm talking about if you look at egalitarianism or communitarianism, I think one of the things that Helen Andrews doesn't really address, or at least to my knowledge doesn't address, is the logical outcome of wokeism. or the logical outcome of women's proclivity to organize society from a collectivist, from a communitarian perspective. This chick that's like, Rage Against the Machine, Zach De La Roca of Spain, right? This seems like a good idea. It seems like a great idea. Hey, we're gonna wipe, basically get rid. Of course, she's white with 2 white kids, right? Mm-hmm. But she's Spanish, so she speaks Spanish, so she must be cool, right? But the thing, I don't care about ethno-nationalism. I don't give a flying fuck about that stuff. But the thing that gets me is this is evidence of an egalitarian communitarianism, collectivism that leads to what? To socialism and to communism, or at least the idea of like an idealized form of communism, right? Like, well, if we got everybody together and you give them all rights and everything, then we'd have a better way of organizing society. Because why? Because it seems better to organize society in the round, and the more people who participate, the better. And that, so again, it's like you swamp the system, give them all rights, give them all, again, rights that will be enforced by who? By men, so that they can vote. I have this, God, where did it go? I have a, I think I might have it in my pictures here. I've been saving this for a special occasion. This might be it. But it's about voting. And I sent this to Andrew Wilson in the hopes that at some point he was, here it is. I do still have it. Holy shit. This will be a great way to sort of end the show here. So I thought this was some really fucking great quote. And this is something that was pulled off of Reddit not too long ago. And I think it really kind of sums up today's show. So let me grab the image file here. And it is right there. Where'd it go? IMG. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is it. So I'll just read it. I'll just read it straight to you. Okay, I thought this was. Put that back up. Take me out of there. Okay. Okay. So this is interesting. So this is women leaning left, men leaning right. It's sort of a follow-on to that graph that I showed you about the gulf and the distance between men and women politically. Okay. This is a problem. You see, the reason we have elections is because they are a cheaper proxy than war. In elections, the biggest side wins, which would probably be the case with war too, unless you're a really good strategist. But in elections, no one dies, and you don't have to spend money on weapons, etc. So it's a good proxy. However, it doesn't work when one side is significantly weaker than the other side, such as when women are on one side and men are on the other. In this case, if the women outnumber the men and would win an election, the women would not win a war, and so the proxy is no longer an adequate proxy. If we were to switch from elections to war, it will be one side that is mostly women against another side that is mostly men. Men would easily win with very small casualties. So why would men consent to be ruled by elections when they could more easily win a war? This is why women should never have been allowed to vote. It nullifies elections as proxies for war, and we end up having to have a war instead. I thought that was interesting, because really, what is voting? It's if you go to Starship Troopers, it's violence. It's a proxy for violence, is what it is. I mean, nobody gets hurt, right? But it's what is it? Violence is the extreme, or is the ultimate authority from which all other authority is derived from, right? That's what your rights are based on. Your rights are based on the ability of men, violent men, to enforce them ultimately enforce them with violence. Now, there's steps. You don't have to actually kill somebody to do this, but like there's steps in between. I mean, ultimately, it might be, right? It might be war. But the problem is like, as I was saying before, like in the suffragette movement, when women finally got the right to vote, the idea of what voting was or what constituted a vote was much different. You had to have skin in the game. You had to be like, I think the idea of like a popular vote should outweigh the electoral college. I think the electoral college was there to ensure that there wasn't like mob rule or something like that. The thing is from an egalitarian, communitarian perspective, from a female way of organizing society perspective, popular vote makes all the sense in the world. That should be the only thing. Everybody should have a right to vote. So the cam girl who's 18 years old, who just made $2.3 million by showing her ass for the first 24 hours, she has the same voting power that I have as a 57-year-old rational male with 6 books under his belt. Right? She has the same power as one vote. Why? Why is that? She has no skin in the game. The other thing is this I mean, I don't have to anymore, but like if you're an 18-year-old male, you're not allowed to vote unless you sign up for selective service. Well, you're automatically enrolled now, but like men, if you have a penis, and by the way, trans men, if you have a penis, you also have to enlist in selective service, or else you can't hold public office, or else in some states you can't get a driver's license, and sometimes you certainly can't get a government job. And in some cases, if you I don't know how you would do it now, but if in the past, if you had tried to avoid selective services, you could be held in contempt for like $250,000. Ladies, you want to talk about systemic sexism? You could stop the conversation right at selective services, even today. So the fact is you don't get to be a citizen as a man. You don't even get to be a citizen unless you are going to put your ass on the line to be drafted and go to war and possibly lose your life. Same thing in the Ukraine, right? The women leave the country and they go off to the UK, the United States, Canada, Miami, and they go and party and have a good time while the men folk are physically taken and put into military service so that they can die. And that's what I wanted to point out once again, is that I've mentioned this before, and this is, I think, a lot more significant than a lot of people really want to give it credit for, but there will never be an equal exchange of value between men and women. As I said before, like what Tristan Tate always said, that, simping is an unequal exchange of value between men and women. You will never have an equal exchange of value. If I am expected to die, if I'm expected to be in selective services and possibly die, right? If I'm a Ukrainian man and because I have a penis, I go to the front lines and my girlfriend, she goes off to Miami to party with Fresh. Like that is the ultimate unequal exchange of value. I die, you live. I was mentioning to Mark DeFont, right? Men have an innate protector dynamic. They will throw themselves, without even thinking, instinctually, throw themselves in front of live ammunition to protect women that they don't know. If that is the case, if that's the biological reality, I am the sacrificial sex and you are the vulnerable sex, guess what? There is nothing a woman can bring to the table that is going to offset me dying for you, okay? There's nothing that is going to offset losing your life. That's the ultimate exchange of value. So there's never going to be an equal exchange of value. How are you going to offset that? Like, it's good to find my woman is great. My wife is awesome. I take care of her. I take care of her mom. I take care of my dogs. I take care of Sambata. I take care of a lot of people, right? A lot of people are dependent on old Rollo Tomato. That old guy, they're all dependent on me, right? But I'm good with that. I already understand that there's never going to be an equal exchange of value. So appreciate your man for what he actually is, ladies. But I think at some point guys have to come to that conclusion, have to realize that, like what's worth it to you, because you're the one that has to die, whether it's a home invasion or on the street or whatever, or a wild animal or a snow panther,
snow leopard.
You guys see the snow leopard video? God, don't show me that. It's so horrific. I mean, okay, wait, just get the selfie. Show me the selfie and then we won't go to the other parts of it. Ladies, why Why? Why does this seem like a good idea to you?
Let me just pull this up.
Yeah,
right
just
here.
give me the picture. Anybody seen this? Wait, take me out. See the snow leopard right there? I'm not. That's a real. I think if this isn't AI, this girl got her face ripped off by this snow leopard, but she got a really great selfie before it happened.
She
right?
paid the price.
Yes. Like, it's like, well, what is it? Women need men to protect them from what? Like implying that it's other men, right? From what? Snow leopards, maybe. Snow leopards, that's a good start. Bears, good start. Yourselves, good start. Like nobody's gonna tell that bitch not to take a selfie with a fucking snow leopard. She's still gonna do it.
Man or snow leopard?
Man or snow leopard? How 100? One man or 100 snow leopards? Oh my god! I will say it was a good selfie though. She did get all for the gram, man. One good selfie, man. Holy mackerel! I can't even believe that. All right, let me get to these. Women haven't spoken out enough about feminism because it hasn't caused them enough direct pain. They just want authority without responsibility. And they will always get that because the ideology reinforces that. It affirms that. They don't, because they, there's no scenario where feminism can't be, rejiggered sociologically not to benefit women. We're just seeing I think what was it? Milo Yiannopoulos at one point said, that only 16% of women actually identify as feminists. That meaning that, women aren't being feminists anymore. No, they are. They just don't identify it. They just can't recognize it in themselves. They don't if you ask them questions like, do you think women should have the right to vote? Do you think that, women should be equally represented? If you go through all of these entitlements that women have gotten as a result of feminist ideology, you'll find that there's a lot more than 16% of women that are feminists right now, because they still hell, most of them are tradcons. They still adhere to feminist ideology. They just don't call it that. Like Megyn Kelly, if I said Megyn Kelly's a feminist, she would go, "Fuck you! I'm a conservative. I'm a good God-fearing Christian woman," right? But does what come out of her mouth sound like she's anti-feminist? Just because she doesn't have purple hair and looks like Lena Dunham doesn't mean she's not a feminist, right? Same thing with what is it? Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren. If I said Tomi Lahren is a feminist, she would claw my face off like a snow leopard because she doesn't want to be associated with that. But then you go, but Tomi Lahren's been on record, and I don't think she's changed her stance on this anytime, but she is also very much pro-abortion. Woman's right to choose. And that really set her off from a lot of her conservative contemporaries at the time. Why? Because she's a feminist. For fuck's sake, she's a feminist. It's just the stripe looks different. She's waving a different flag is all. Greetings. I hate YouTube censorship. Is there another way I can donate? Yes. You can donate to my Patreon. And if you want to donate to my Patreon, you can do so in the description. I have a whole donation section in the description there. That's probably the best and easiest way to do it if you want to. And you can, even if you have crypto, you can get to my crypto address there as well. So there you go. Yes. I hate YouTube censorship too. Boy, the algorithm is really fucked up. By the way, I'm doing this as an act of charity today because YouTube hates long form content. And the only reason I do long form content is because it provides me with a lot of short form content. Clip this. That's all you have to say. And StreamYard will actually clip this part. Like when I do clips of this, because I just said clip this, it will actually clip this.
That's 4 clips right there.
Yeah. Even, by the way, vidIQ is I used to rely on vidIQ to help me out once in a while with titles, like daily ideas. vidIQ has abandoned daily ideas. It's gone.
Wow.
You know what you have to do now?
What?
You go to the AI client for video. And you got to say, vidIQ, like AI guy, whoever you are, vidIQ AI. Give me 5 ideas for today's show. And then it'll generate those things according, and maybe it's a little more comprehensive. I don't know. But now it's all AI based, and it'll tell you like, here's why you should do this. Do it like this only. And then it will tell you like, according to the title, it'll say, don't go more than 8 minutes, or like do a 3-minute video on the alpha widows or something like that, because that's trending. And it'll tell you why it's trending and who's done it recently and everything else. So it is comprehensive. I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just like, boy, it's reacting to how the algorithm has changed. And by the way, it's not YouTube's algorithm. It's Google's Gemini AI that is the algorithm for. It's the master algorithm. It's the one ring of algorithms for everything Google. So Gemini is now part of your Google searches. It's Google no longer wants to be a search engine. It wants to be an answer engine. And if you have a Gmail account and you are using an email with a Gmail account, trust me, it's reading your emails, so it knows what you want. And listening to you on your devices. Guess what? Oh, I got a flat tire. I'm on the side of the road. You flip over to YouTube. Bam! Here's a 3-minute video on how to change your tire. I didn't even search for it. It just showed up. Yeah, it's Gemini. Same thing with YouTube. YouTube is prioritizing shorts right now, and those shorts are custom. You want to know why long form content dies? Because it's too cumbersome for Gemini. They just want you to just have the shorts.
That's the update that they did with StreamYard, where you could stream in portrait. So you could stream in portrait for not only TikTok, other stuff like that, but YouTube. YouTube is pushing out a lot of streams through that now.
Yeah, exactly. If he shows you in portrait, it must be doing a short. Sure. So you gotta, so that will push you up in impressions. Audience retention is no longer a thing anymore either. In fact, even if there's what's called positive abandonment and negative abandonment. So if you watch a video and if you get to the point within the first like two minutes of the video, not even that, like the first minute and a half of the video, and people click off of it because they got what they needed, that's called positive abandonment, and they'll pump your video up. If you don't get to it in a certain amount of time and people like say, fuck this guy, that's negative abandonment. The AI knows that now. It's smart. EvoPsych is the cornerstone of the entire red pill. Yeah, partially. I wouldn't say it's a cornerstone. I'll give it to you. EvoBio, I think, is the next corner, is the other part of that equation. I think EvoBio is sort of the underutilized, under-respected portion of the red pill. As I said before, more people will become red pill as a result of EvoBio than EvoPsychology, because EvoPsychology is always going to have this, especially amongst trads, is always going to have this stigma attached to it because it has evolution. If you put Evo in front of anything, Christians will hate it. EvoBio, EvoPsych, Evo archaeology, Evo vegetable, Evo soil studies, Evo geology. Forget it. You're done. No, I think EvoBio will be, if not more so significant than evolutionary psychology, because a lot of people will say, well, EvoPsych is just people trying to do backwards rationalization, right? It's kind of like shoot the arrow and paint the target around it. You can't do that with EvoBio. Either the genetic record points to it or it doesn't. So I think the conclusions we can draw from EvoBio are just as important as EvoPsych. And then that's not the only part of it too. There's archaeology, there's sociology, there's endocrinology, there's neurology, brain scans, right? Brain studies. Somebody was giving me shit about me being harsh on Carl Jung, which I always am, and I always will be. I have the same opinion of Carl Jung that Gad Saad has. Gad Saad just shakes his head and is just like, we're so far beyond Freud and so far beyond Jung. And the reason why people still cling to Jung as if he's the fucking messiah is because Jordan Peterson clings to Jung too much. Jordan Peterson wants to be Carl Jung. Like, he stylizes himself after Freud and Jung. He wants to be, when he dies, He wants his pictures to look like he's got that same tweed fucking. He does. Look at some of, like, I mean, some of his look like he's a DC Comics villain, but like if you look at the ones where he's in that like kind of brownish tweed with the overcoat with the vest underneath and the tie and everything like that, dude, it's eerie how close it is to Sigmund Freud's portrait. Like, it's crazy. But I think he's trying to stylize himself as the 21st century version of Carl Jung or Sigmund Freud. The reason why I say, but why I have a low opinion of Jung is because we've come so far from now. It's the same. Like I should, as a behavioral psychologist, like that's where my formal training was from. I should be the one saying, yeah, B.F. Skinner, all right. I don't, because I know a lot of his stuff is outdated. Abraham Maslow. Okay, he had something like the hierarchy of needs. It was functional. It worked for a while. It was a good predictive framework for a while. But we've plotted the human genome since then, and we know more about what motivates us biologically and instinctually. We know, people say, well, they love Maslow when they get to the top of the pyramid. Like, oh, it's all about this cosmic meaning, and we should all just read the tea leaves and be closer to nirvana or God or whatever it is. Like, they love that part. But you go and you say, yeah, but before you get there, you need to get laid a lot. You got to eat, you got to fuck, you got to run, you got to have survival. The bottom of the pyramid's not so important. But I'm not saying they don't have contributions. They do have contributions. But I think we've taken, especially in the case of Jung, feminists love Carl Jung. Love Carl Jung because they bastardize it. I'm not saying they know exactly what they're talking about, but the idea that you have a feminine nature and a male nature, you have like they're both in the same person or something like that. All that is just androgyny. All that is just a means of control. Oh, men need to get in touch with their female nature. You know where that came from? Carl Jung. That's where it came from. Oh, we've masculinized men or masculinized women and we feminized men. Well, yeah, if you agree with Carl Jung, that's where that fucking came from. If I say, you know what, men have masculinity and women have femininity, that's it. I'm an asshole for that. But if I go and I show you the 4 laws of behavioral genetics, boom, bye. We plotted the human genome. Oh, we know more about human brain studies than ever before. Certainly more so than the 1930s, 1940s, whenever Jung was popular, when Jung was working. Certainly before with Sigmund Freud. Remember, that was all theoretical back then. It was all just like, okay, I think this is true. Let's experiment. And so they're trying to make psychological experiments. I'm not saying that they didn't have merit, but we have moved on. There's so many, it's the same thing with Dr. Buss. Like Dr. Buss is, like I said, he's like gold standard for evolutionary psychology. That doesn't mean he's the only motherfucker in evolutionary psychology. You got Steve Stewart Williams, who's still a research scientist, right? There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work still to this day, but you just don't know their names. Shit, you only know mine, or you only know about, a lot of people only know evolutionary psychology because they heard me, secondhand, thirdhand knowledge come out of me. So, and I don't have a degree in Evo Psych. Mine's a bachelor's in behavioral psych. So, a lot of times, the thing that gets me is this: is anytime I am even like marginally measured in my criticisms about Carl Jung. You don't understand Jung, man. He's like Jesus Christ, man. He's like, and he literally is. He's like this messianic figure to a lot of people. And he had contributions, but we've moved on. Like psychology moved on from him a long fucking time ago. But we don't, because feminism is still a thing, and we still base a lot of that ideology, at least in part, on some of Jung's ideas. His theories, but whether they've been disproven or not is kind of irrelevant. Like I love it when what's that guy, Ginger Prometheus, the guy what's his fucking name? I can't remember the dude's name. He's a guy who's all about attachment theory, attachment this and a secure attachment that, and your parents, they did this to you and they did that to you, and that's why you want mommy, and you're attached to her apron strings, and that's why you have this kind of attachment and not that kind of attachment. Guess what? Attachment theory is disproven a long fucking time ago. But we're still fucking harping on attachment theory. You know how it's been disproven? The four laws of behavioral genetics. Guess what? Your genes make more of a difference to who you are personality wise than your attachment style because of mommy. In fact, I can show you like at least one or two. I think I have two bookmarked researches that directly challenge attachment theory, like basically debunking attachment theory in light of the new discoveries of genetic behaviorism and how genes affect personality, behavior, upbringing, parenting, which is kind of tough for a lot of people to swallow, right? I can show you how, like I was saying before, I can show you how the blank slate is bullshit in light of genetic behaviorism. We plotted the human genome. Up until this point, Carl Jung didn't know anything about plotting the human genome. Freud had no idea about fMRI studies. B.F. Skinner had no fucking idea about evolutionary psychology, none whatsoever. It was, or maybe he did. It was like a very emerging science in the 70s. Had no idea. So how can you expect them to have accurate hypotheses and theories without having the same kind of data and the same kind? Like we are like, we're literally almost a century past some of these guys. We're approaching a century past these guys and at their heyday. Look at what we've accomplished. Look at the technical, what we have access to right now, the data, the information that we have that they had no idea. Like I didn't bring this up with Mark. I probably should have, because I mentioned earlier about how feminism sort of came up at the same time communism did. And I wanted to point out that in the same sense that that Carl Jung and Freud and B.F. Skinner and Abraham Maslow and all these luminaries of psychology, they were good at their time, but they were still using, or they're basing their understanding of human nature on incomplete data. Okay. They didn't have fMRI studies. They didn't, hell, we didn't even have DNA testing for most of these guys, or maybe B.F. Skinner. They didn't have anything like that. We didn't plot the human genome. We certainly didn't know maybe a fraction of what we know about the human brain right now. We have or how it evolved, or how it, in utero gestation, how boys and girls, those genetic differences are in the cellular level when you're percolating inside of mommy's womb, right? They didn't know shit like that, but they're trying their best with what they had to work with at the time. That's why communism will always fail. That's why feminism will always fail, because it doesn't work with an accurate understanding of human fucking nature. The guy who's going to be dangerous, the Antichrist. The Antichrist is coming. You know what the Antichrist is going to do? He's going to be the guy who's going to use human nature and evolutionary psychology, he's going to take all this good stuff and he's going to use that, and he's going to have such an accurate understanding of human nature that he could global control, one ring to rule them all, right? That's until a world leader appears on the screen who has an accurate understanding of human nature from an evolutionary, biological, psychological perspective, until that guy is a product of a post plotting the human genome society, as a 21st century candidate, we're just going to be floundering for a while. I'm saying that, well, we really need the Antichrist. No, but the guy who understands that, who can incorporate that into his governmental book, you're never going to have a successful society until you base your policies on accurate information. Like you'll hear people, you hear this all the time. Like people say, well, we've tried communism so many times and people just die in droves, man. It's like historically it's a dead end, but we still keep trying it over and over again. Yeah, it still seems like a good idea because we're still addicted and still clinging to these old school ideas like anima and animus and feminism and this and everything else. Feminism is just basically the female version of socialism or communism, also based on an inaccurate understanding of human nature, biologically, evolutionarily, completely wrong because that communism was based on the understanding of Karl Marx back in 1848. So you want to know why it doesn't work in 2025? Because your ideology is based on the understanding of human nature from 1848. That's why. Like that chick in Spain who's just like Rage Against the Machine, Zach Del Roca, like Rage Against the Machine. It's never going to work. All it does is lead to anarchy and death and despair and destruction, because they have, well, first of all, they have no plan. But second of all, that rage and everything else is based on an ideology that has no understanding of human nature from a modern perspective, using modern technology, using modern data sets, using an understanding of where we are right fucking now. If we did, we would be laughing at people who want to be, but she wants to be a communist. She doesn't know how human beings really are. We would be laughing at that shit. Like all of that stuff is based on an understanding of human nature that is an anachronism. It's old. We didn't even know what it was fucking then, and we still came up with ideas, and then now we're going to take and carry that into the 21st century? Get the fuck out of here. That's why socialism, that's why communitarianism or collectivism, that's why when women are organizing societies, that's why they fail. That's why California has a homeless crisis. That's why they can't even clean up fucking Malibu fires, and it's been a year later. There's still like all that shit. All, you know, you got your female fire chief and your female police chief or whatever. It's still a fucking mess. No, why doesn't anybody hold fucking Gavin Newsom to like his fucking dick to the fire about
Dude,
that?
It should be. It really should.
I'm going to run for president. Oh, how about you do that after you clean up fucking Malibu, man?
How about the, what, 6 billion total, but 2 billion missing?
Yeah. Why? In what world? Like, I mean, I'm going to channel my inner Aaron Clary now. In what world does that work? It doesn't. Why? Because you're you're organizing your society based on an ideology that has human nature, or has an understanding of human nature from 200 years, 150 at least years ago. We've come a long way since then, man. Why have you not learned any of that? Why is there any sort of popular, what does he say, $24 billion?
Total from 2018 to 2023, roughly 24 billion spent. This is between other things.
And and you know what? They're selling that stuff off. They're selling that property to Chinese like nationals right now. A fucking bargain, right?
Ever since California passed that shit, they let foreign entities buy in, right?
Yeah. Oh, that seems like a good idea.
That they were doing that near my hometown, buying the shit ton of properties.
Well, you know, we should let anybody should be able to own property here because that's a human right. Get the fuck out of here. We should open up the borders because that's a human right for everybody to come up. That's socialism. That's communitarian. It's a big community. Come over here. Everything's great, guys. Bring all your third world bullshit over here. Awesome. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature based on an ideology that didn't know what the fuck it was talking about in 1848. Same thing with Carl Jung and Freud. They did the best with what they had at the time. Not saying they didn't make a good effort. They did, right? More to you. But let's fucking move on. Let's come up with something new, guys. You hit the nail on the head in a previous show about what is left for men. Friends with benefits is all that's left for men. It's temporary. Yeah. You know what's funny is like that's almost like the best case scenario right now is friends with benefits. I'll do you one better. Even if the governmental entity is mostly men, most of those men are effectively women. Yeah, because they have to be. If you're going to hold office as a man right now, you've got to pander to the female imperative. You have to pander to gynocentrism. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, you're Donald Trump, but even Donald Trump still has to deal with. That's who does he have to fight against? A female narrative is what he has to fight against. It's the resistance. Bo Refleck from Legion of Men has a good idea on how to fix voting. Make it based on meritocratic levels. More skin in the game equals more voting power. I agree. In fact, I think that's a better solution than what is it? Repealing the 19th. Get the fuck out of here with repealing on the 19th. It's not going to happen. The genie's out of the bottle. You're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Okay, it's out. What are you going to do about it? Go back to the way voting used to be. Military service guarantees citizenship. Would you like to know more? Guarantees citizenship. There should be certain things that guarantee citizenship is what it should be. Like if you have skin in the game, then you get to decide the direction of the country. And biggest skin in the game, join selective services. Guess what? Here's your vote. Right? Or maybe you have because you have more economic power, because you have more property. I don't know what it is. I mean, it used to be those were the things. I'm not saying, okay, so here's the thing. Let's just say if you're just a citizen, you got one vote. If you're in the military, got 3 votes, right? Because you're going to lose your life. You got to get at least 3 votes, right? You have a business. You're an entrepreneur. You get 2 votes.
Okay.
I'm just spitballing here. I'm not saying that it should actually be 2 votes, but you see what I'm saying? It's like it's based on how much investment you have in the community and in the merit. So if I have a business that is like between a certain range of like profit range, maybe I get 2. If I'm Apple, I got X, whatever it is, or maybe even like multinational monopolies shouldn't have the right to vote because because they would be too powerful, right?
Oh, we look at the oil companies.
But right now, one vote, one person, right?
Yeah.
But if you serve I think military service, if you served in the military, and I didn't serve in the military, but like I think Mike Sartain's vote should count more than mine, right? Because he's the one who put his ass out there. Well, I mean, I signed up for selective services back in the day, but like I never served. But men should have more say in government than women do because we're the ones that are going to get drafted and thrown into the fire if that's the case. Women not. Women get 1 vote. You're on selective services, you get 2 votes. Women, if you want to sign up for selective services, guess what? You got 2 votes. Now you got skin in the game, right? Serve in the military, now you got 3 votes. You shouldn't be able to have babies
until you
serve in the military. That's what it was in Starship Troopers. You couldn't have, like in the book anyways, you couldn't have babies. You weren't allowed to reproduce unless you were a citizen. And military service guaranteed citizenship. And there's other ways to do it, but like that was the easiest way to do it. One thing can save Hooties. Can't say it on YT on YouTube. Save Hooties. Jet screaming Hootie queens. Yes. Net taxpayer solved this. Really? Yeah, maybe you're right.
I mean, I'd always say just correct lobbyists. Take out financial incentives for politicians.
Well, what kills me is like I see all these things about like where they're saying like we need to put out financial incentives for women or couples to have babies, right? Like they've done that.
Yeah,
we've been doing that for like they do that in South Korea and they didn't do jack shit. That graph that I showed you between that's just the United States. It's like in South Korea, it's way the fuck up there for women and way down for men. But I think one of like when let me see if I can finish off with this here. When I put this up, I keep coming back to this, man. Like if you look at that peak right there, right around 2022-ish, 2021, 2022, where men are at about +5 conservative and women are at like almost 30. They're just under 30. You look at that gap right there.
30, 39, yeah.
If the purple line means you're normal, if you agree with everything women have to say, if the purple line means you are normal and you're that brownish line there for men, right? Yellow brown line for men there, that's you seem pretty aberrant. There's something fucking really wrong with you guys because you're not on board with the way everybody else in society run by a gynocentric social order. The normal society is that purple line at its peak in 2022. The reason why the world doesn't work is because men have been radicalized. No, they haven't. They haven't done shit. You're the ones who have, and you think that that's normal. That's why. But if that's your, like we say, anything can become normal. If that's the normal, if that's the normative, if that's the correct way of thinking, and men are like way down, like 30, 32 points below you, then yeah, it seems like they've been radicalized. They haven't been radicalized. They haven't been doing anything really effectively different for decades now. It's women who have gone that far and have made that the norm. That's the new normal for women. That's why you see these women losing their fucking minds in Minnesota. That's why they're losing. That's why they're putting themselves in front of cars. That's why they're doing videos in cars and just like tearing their hair out. We're the resistance. And even more so now than back in 2017 when Trump first took office.
Yeah.
It's like think about it. Actually, let's go look at that here. So Trump took office in 2016 or 2017, right? Because 2016 was the thing. So there was still like men actually came across right around 2016, 2017, right there. They were a little bit more liberal back then, but look at the spike in women. You know, like when Trump took office, that's when this all started to peak. I think a lot of people think it's because of like the algorithm capture on social media, which I'm sure that definitely played a part. But what else played a part? Trump being in office. What also happened what happened in 2020? Biden took office. So when you're looking at social changes right there, when you're looking at the gulf between men and women politically, it's an ideological gulf. It's not just a political gulf, right? Remember, the conservative and liberal is based on ideologies. It's not just who's voting Republican, who's voting Democrat. I mean, those translate into votes, obviously, but it's about the ideology. What do women believe? And so, you know, if the normal, remember I keep telling you guys that like women today do not see men as human. You don't get to be human unless you go to therapy. You don't get to be human. Why? Well, you lack emotional intelligence. You need to develop your emotional intelligence. How the fuck do I do that? You go to therapy. I go to therapy. Therapy's sexy. buy some body wash from Bed Bath and Beyond, and then suddenly you'll be in touch with your emotions or some shit like that, right? What was that? Remember the Australian guy in Landman?
Yeah.
And he has all of the different like soaps, and he has like the different like fragrances and shit. And she was all hot for him because he had those. Dude, the game recognizes game.
Yeah.
That is like wonderful. That is 100. Do that. Have that shit in your
show that you're hygienic.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So when she comes over and she fucks you at your house, make sure she's got like, oh wow, he's a little bit different. That's all it takes. Like you don't care. You'd probably just pick them up off the shelf and throw them there. And, you know, let's put some patchouli oil here and like incense and, you know, some herbs and shit like that. Yeah.
Oh, look, a candle.
Brilliant. Game recognizes game.
And a mullet.
Do that. Yes. Okay, last one before we go. What is this? Just wanted to thank you all for your hard work. You are one of my many inspirations and someone that I have learned a lot from. Glad to hear it. Thank you. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps the show going today, because it sure ain't the money. Yeah, anyways, I'll keep doing it if you guys keep watching it. So let's see. There's no Access Vegas this Wednesday. I am, however, going to go do a podcast. With my good friend Ash Khan, who is not Akash, Ash Khan, okay. Who is an instructor for MOA, and he has his own podcast. If it's live streamed, I'll let you guys know because I want to promote it for him. Good friend of mine. He's one of the dudes that's part of MOA, and it's been a long time coming. He's been asking me for a while. He asked me before I went into surgery, and I'm like, let's do it after I'm done. So I'm going to be going out there. He's here in Vegas too, so it'll be an easy trip. And also, if Monica Almaguer is watching, I'm ready for my close up because I know that Mike just did an interview or did a show with Monica. Monica's no slouch. She's got about 150,000 followers on her Instagram or on her YouTube right now. And so whenever you're ready, Monica, just let me know. We can do it here. We can do it at Origin. We can do it at wherever you go. Just let me know. So that'll be Wednesday. What else do I have going on? Of course, the reason why we don't have Access Vegas is because Mike is going to be out in San Francisco for the Babes in Toyland Super Bowl edition, because I guess they're doing Super Bowl in San Francisco.
Yeah,
right.
In
I guess it would be in Silicon Valley, whatever the new.
Yeah, it's in
The new one. Yeah, which I'll be watching. I do watch football.
It's Levi Stadium.
Levi Stadium. That's right. I do watch football. There's nothing wrong with watching football. You know, it's funny. It's like, I love it because this is the time of year that these guys do this. And Myron, I love you, but I'm gonna hold you up here for a second. Like Myron will always say, guys who watch football, that's a waste of your time. You're just watching guys overpaid athletes running around the football field. And what are they really doing? What value are they providing for you?
You're idolizing a man.
You're idolizing a man. Yeah. Why would you're a beta male if you watch sports ball? I'm like, I couldn't help myself. I said, isn't Power Slap a sport? But I don't watch Power Slap, so I guess I'm okay, right? What about the NHL? See, I see sports as a proxy for war.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything more manly than sports other than like going and killing a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you shouldn't watch sports. That's a waste of your time. Depends on what sport.
Yeah.
Soccer. I don't know.
Tennis. For sure.
Tennis.
I can't watch it.
You will only appreciate golf if you play golf.
Yes,
you have to play golf to appreciate golf, and I do. Or what's the other one? I mean, baseball's okay. I like baseball well enough. But it's not like I'll watch the playoffs and I'll watch a World Series. That's probably about it. Football, I play fantasy football with Donovan Sharp in our league every year. Like I've been doing that for probably 8 years now. So I'm always into football, even though I don't talk about it on this show very much. I watch the NHL all the fucking time because I'm a big Golden Knights fan, as you guys already know. And but I do not watch Power Slap. So the curling, yes, I watch curling. Yes, the Olympics are coming this year.
Yeah,
there's Winter Olympics, right?
Yeah,
it's and it's Italy. It's in the north of Italy. I didn't even know there was snow in Italy.
Milan.
Yeah,
Milan.
When is it supposed to come?
February 6th through February 22nd.
All right.
And curling's in February 5th.
Curling is February 5th, just so you know, for you curling fans out there. Why would you want to watch a guy curling? That's not masculine. What is a masculine? Sumo wrestling? Is that a masculine? What about like all these guys? You're watching UFC, right? You did watch Conor McGregor beat the fuck out of whoever. Like that's okay though. Like, what is a sport? Golf's not a sport because you can drink and smoke while you're doing it. Isn't that on like Landman?
Yeah.
Golf's not a sport. Why? Because you can drink and smoke while you're doing it. Okay. So anyways, also you and I are going to Origin Studios on February 7th, which is this Friday, for their second anniversary thing, and Access Vegas is up for an award.
Ooh.
So we will be there. Since Mike won't be there, you'll be my date. But me and Kyle will be there, and I might live stream. I might do something on Instagram while I'm there. But we're supposed to be getting an award. I don't know what kind of award, but I will let you know. So that's going to be on the 7th. And hopefully I won't have a fever and I won't have to worry. I'm feeling pretty good right now. So I'm pretty chipper. And anyways, so hopefully I'm over the worst of it. And I think that's about it. Buy the new shirt, Rolo's Roughnecks. You can get it at the link is it'll say new merch. That's the Sticker Mule link to get to my Sticker Mule store. You'll see it there. It's like $25. People go, why is it so much money? Because they charge a lot of fucking money, man, and they got to ship that shit to you too. I make $5 off of each one of these shirts, so like I'm not trying to gouge you. I'm just doing what I'm doing. But if you want to get one there, and I'm going to have some, as soon as I have them, I'll let you know. But I got some new stuff coming out too. There's going to be another one for maybe one or two for Access Vegas. And then there's going to be a Reignite one. And if you guys really want me to, I'll do a Rational Male one, a dedicated Rational Male one, which I think might be popular. So I'll do something like that. I'm a little weird about wearing my own merch. It's like wearing your own band t-shirt. Yeah, right. It's funny. We went to the Battle of the Bands at one time with Jinx and the rest of the guys. And I was asking these guys, I said, should we wear our band shirts? And Connor's like, our singer, Connor's like, that'd be kind of like wearing your like the Tomasi family t-shirts when you go on like vacation. Tomasi vacation 2026. I like, oh, okay.
Never mind.
Understood. Yeah. It's like wearing a family vacation t-shirt if you do it. So we have a standing rule not to wear our own merch when we're playing out. So I thought that was funny. But I don't know. Should I wear my own merch? I guess I am right now. I've always been a little weirded by that. You know why? Because Ruslan used to fucking wear nothing but his own merch. Mm-hmm. And I know Myron and Fresh always wear their own merch too, which I guess is okay. They kind of have to because that fucking studio is cold, so they got to wear the hoodie. Yeah, freeze my fucking titties off every time I'm in there. So.
It's for the nipple shots.
Yes. All right, guys. I will see you guys next Sunday. And then start looking for shorts because as soon as I'm done with this show, I'm going to generate some clips. So because that's the only thing the YouTube algorithm cares about. That's the only thing Gemini cares about anymore. So hope you guys learned something. Today was much more nuts and bolts. I'm trying to get back to some meat and potatoes subjects and topics and less about gossipy shit. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks, Kyle, for producing today. Of course. And a big shout out to Mark DeFont for joining us today. Thanks a lot, brother. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Say my name.
It was my first time.
Hey, y'all.
But I was just a kid when we met and went to bed. It was my first time.
Goddamn right.
What'd you expect from me? I'm breaking up the rules now in the game. I've got some new tools. Please do the same. Time came by and went over like a matchbox stereo. Time to get my thoughts.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Bound to keep me up all night.
Try this to be cool.
But maybe we can fuck again. And maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again.
Goddamn right.
Then maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. You could have the best in my life.
Sagani.
Now we're fucking in the bathroom, tearing up every wall while I got your hair. Why you screaming my name?
That's nasty. It is nasty, right? Isn't it nasty? Ugh.
She was swinging in the bedroom, whole time stopping and stepping with her head like she's Claudia Kelly.
Well, I'm a whore.
Want me? Ride me up and down like a pony. Turning up my song, getting nasty. Working up and down on your body. Want me? Ride me up and down like a pony. Turning up my song on your body. Baby, we'll get down. And maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? 'Cause I need to know if maybe we can fuck again. Then maybe things are different. Good day, sir. Goddamn, baby, one more again.
The Sitting Podcast has been a production of the Rational Mail. All rights reserved. Registered trademark. Worldwide registered trademark. 2026. And don't steal Ned's stuff.
Guilty, 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 guilty.
Tell these bitches to go for hell.
God wants you to have the